Warrior Lore. Chapter 2359. That's not it. Tu Hong shook his head. The effect of the array was surprisingly good. Then why? Shui Yu Sage's face turned cold. Reporting to City Lord, this time, only 2,237 disciples of my Golden Spring Mountain survived. Tu Hong said calmly. What? Without waiting for Taoist Master Shui Yu to reveal a surprised expression, Jian Kong immediately jumped up and shouted, According to what I know, your Golden Spring Mountain has over 31,000 disciples. Yet, Shui Yu Sage's face turned cold as he asked, What about the Dao sect's reinforcements? The Dao sect sent 5,608 people, but only 11 disciples survived. Tu Hong's tone remained calm. What? This time, even the nascent soul cultivator, Master Shui Yu, was unable to maintain his calm. He stood up from the praying mat and flew in front of Tu Hong with a single step. You, say that again? Only 11 Dao sect disciples survived, and all of them were seriously injured. Tu Hong looked up and stared at Shui Yu Sage without fear. Tu Hong, you're too bold. Sage Shui's face was ashen. I allowed you to set up that vicious formation in the Golden Spring Mountain Spirit Stone Mine, but I didn't allow you to bury all of my Sky Patrol City's disciples, nor did I allow you to bury all of the Dao sect's disciples who went to reinforce them. So many Sky Patrol City's disciples, so many Dao sect disciples. How can I explain this to the sect leaders of the Three Kingdoms? I'm afraid I can't protect you. When this subordinate set up this plan, he had already disregarded life and death. Tu Hong was not afraid at all. He bowed and said, For Sky Patrol City, for the sake of killing sword cultivators, I'm willing to give up my head. I don't need the governor to make any promises for me. I'll explain everything to the governor, and then I'll go to the Yin Shi mansion to receive my punishment. What's the result of the battle? Shui Yu Sage asked coldly. With so many Jinquan Mountain disciples dead, I don't have the face to talk about the result of the battle. Tu Hong looked up at Shui Yu Sage and said sincerely, Governor, please listen to my analysis of the battle at Jinquan Mountain. All right, go ahead. Sage Shui Yu looked deeply at Tu Hong, and the anger on his face disappeared. He slowly flew back to the praying mat and sat down. Yes. Tu Hong bowed respectfully. He slowly explained the order he had received from the Sky Patrol City to cooperate with the Dao sect cultivators. He explained how he had lured all the sword cultivators and beast cultivators who were attacking Mount Quanjin into the Great Formation of Mount Quanjin, and how he had borrowed the power of the Great Formation to escape from the spirit howl of Mount Quanjin. Finally, Tu Hong said earnestly, I'll let the city lord know that when I saw so many Jin Quan Mountain disciples and Dao sect cultivators perishing, my heart felt as though it was being sliced by a knife. These were all warriors who had defeated sword cultivators. I can't wait to protect all of them. However, they are entangled with the sword cultivator, and I am powerless to separate them. Furthermore, there is a limit to the number of people that the formation can protect, and I am powerless to do so. I also gave them some yellow talismans that allowed them to enter the sanctuary, but they only focused on killing the enemy and did not activate the yellow talismans at all. When I saw them die, I really wanted to die with them. However, I still had to escape with these 2,000 people, and I also had to report the whole story of Mount Quanjin to the city lord. I also had to report the righteous deed of the Dao sect cultivators to the Yin Shi Prefecture's conference hall. That's why I suppressed my grief and returned to the Sky Patrol City. Don't tell this to me. Just keep it for the Yin Shi Prefecture. Shui Yu Master flicked his sleeves and said, You sacrificed so many disciples. How many sword cultivators did you kill? I'll let the city lord know. I roughly estimated that there should be more than 40,000 people. Tu Hong said softly, Oh, there are so many? Shui Yu Master raised his white eyebrows and looked at Tu Hong from head to toe. He asked in disbelief. Tu Hong nodded, Yes, I was also surprised at that time. I don't know why the sword cultivators valued my Mount Quanjin so much. That's why I made a sudden decision. You should have reported this to me first. Shui Yu Master's voice softened. Since you can send disciples back to the Sky Patrol City, why didn't you report it? If I don't take responsibility for this, how can I be worthy of the city lord's cultivation? Tu Hong puffed out his chest and said, And if the city lord knows about this, then the city lord won't, I know. Shui Master flicked his sleeves and said, take the image of the array to Jin Kong and go back to rest. Yes, I know. Tu Hong clapped his hands and took out the triangular magic weapon from his storage bag and handed it to Jin Kong. Then he respectfully bowed and slowly retreated. When Tu Hong left the main hall, Jin Kong was still holding the magic weapon in his hand and was slightly dazed. Fong Lung looked at Jin Kong and then looked at Shui Master, who closed his eyes and said with a sigh, Junior Brother 2 is really a great talent. What great talent? Jin Kong snapped out of his daze and said sternly, he's simply a butcher, just like his name. That's 20,000 disciples of my Sky Patrol city. He actually said that they were dead and they were dead, and he sent them to their deaths with his own hands. Senior Brother Jin, don't forget that Tu Hong also killed 40,000 sword cultivators. This kind of military service has never been seen since the beginning of the war. Fong Lung laughed at the side. Jin Kong sneered, if I can disregard the lives of 30,000 cultivators, I can definitely kill 40,000 sword cultivators. Can you do it? Fong Lung laughed. I don't think I can. My surname is not Tu, of course I can't. Jin Kong was still angry and was very disgusted by Tu Hong's actions. After all, that was the lives of tens of thousands of people. Shui Master did not speak. Although his face had calmed down, there was still some anger in his eyes. It was obvious that he had some complaints about Tu Hong's extravagant spending. However, Tu Hong also made it clear that he did not report the news to Shui Master beforehand because he wanted to bear the consequences alone. Shui Master wanted to scold Tu Hong, but he could not say it out loud. Show us the image of Jin Quan Mountain. Shui Master looked at the angry Jin Kong and Fong Lung and said calmly. Jin Kong didn't dare to be negligent. After responding with a yes, he channeled his spiritual power, and the magic treasure of Mitsubishi flew into the air again. After the yellow light flashed, a light curtain sprinkled on the main hall. On the light curtain of 10 feet in size, the snow-covered Quanjin mountain forest appeared. Then, the light screen began to show the sword cultivator's attack and the blood disaster beast in the distance gradually approaching. The entire battle was shown in full detail. -8. Chapter 2360. Needless to say, although Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai were also golden core cultivators, they had never commanded tens of thousands of people to fight. Unconsciously, they were affected by the intensity and blood on the battlefield. They clenched their fists and felt their blood boiling. When they saw the corpses of the cultivators being eaten by the blood calamity beast, Tu Hong did not organize the Spring Gold Mountain disciples to rush out. Although everyone in the hall knew that it was not appropriate to take such measures, they could not help but show anger on their faces. Even the Foundation establishment disciples could not help but whisper. Sage Shueyu's white brows could not help but frown. This video had to be given to the Yinshi Prefecture. How could the Golden Core cultivators of the Dao sect see this tragedy? Sage Shueyu really wanted to cover something for Tu Hong. He really valued Tu Hong's talent. But looking at this video, how could he cover it up? However, if Sage Shueyu was confused, Tu Hong couldn't have kept this video until now, right? Could it be that he changed his personality? Oh, isn't this Yuan Qing from the Skyscraper Sword Sect? Seeing Yuan Qing, Jin Kong, and the others naturally recognized him. Fong Lingbai's eyes turned slightly, and he said anxiously, why didn't Junior Brother 2 mention this sword cultivator? If he can kill this guy, he can recover some losses. There's also a beast cultivator? This beast cultivator seems to be Ying Chao from the Valley of Owls? Jin Kong was stunned. Not only. Fong Lingbai's eyes were sharp. He saw several sword cultivators and beast cultivators, and he said anxiously, there are also several unknown illusory swordsmen and several high-level beast cultivators. Behind them, the Foundation establishment cultivators were in an uproar. The discussion became louder. Junior Brother 2 sigh. It's really too difficult for Junior Brother 2. Fong Lingbai stole a glance at the calm sage Shueyu and sighed. If there were only one or two illusory swordsmen, it would be fine. But now there are several of them, plus the beast cultivators, the blood calamity beast, and the spirit-swallowing bugs. He can kill tens of thousands of sword cultivators. It's definitely a great achievement. Under such circumstances, the Spring Gold Mountain disciples and the Dao sect disciples can't escape. Jin Kong also nodded. Just now, I wrongly blamed Junior Brother too. With so many sword cultivators attacking together, there would not be many left even if they could escape, let alone kill tens of thousands of sword cultivators. But Jin Kong looked at Sage Xueyu and asked doubtfully, these illusory swordsmen, have they all escaped? True Master Xueyu did not say anything and only looked at the screen. 16 illusory swordsmen. When Tu Hong left Jianquan Mountain to face Yuan Qing, Ling Yunwu and the other swordsmen appeared on the screen, causing Jin Kong to be even more shocked. Which sword faction is this disciple from? Sage Xueyu asked. City Lord, please wait a moment. Jin Kong hurriedly clapped his hands and took out a jade slip. He immersed his divine sense into it for a moment and asked curiously, reporting to City Lord, this seems to be Ling Yunwu of the High Wind Sword Sect. According to the information we received, they should be near the Spirit Stone Vein of the Lian country. How did they come to the Golden Spring Mountain? Oh, Sage Xueyu only frowned slightly and did not say anything. Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai did not dare to ask more and continued to look at the screen with doubts. In the end, Yuan Qing and the other swordsmen, Battle Sword, Li Min, and the other beast cultivators, as well as the ordinary swordsmen, chased the group of sword cultivators underground. Ling Yunwu and the other illusory swordsmen also rushed into the Golden Spring Mountain vein without hesitation, completely ignoring the other swordsmen and cultivators. Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai looked at each other in confusion. However, the screen did not show the whereabouts of Ling Yunwu and the others. It only showed the bitter battle in the Golden Spring Mountain vein. Just as everyone was nervously watching, a yellow light appeared from the corner of the light screen and quickly covered everyone's line of sight. In just a few breaths of time, the entire light screen turned yellow and nothing else could be seen. Those dozens of illusory swordsmen. Have they been killed? Jin Kong asked anxiously. Go and call Tu Hong back. Sage Xueyu sneered. He hasn't returned to his mansion yet. Yes. Jin Kong turned around and said, this subordinate will go personally. This guy. He's actually still hiding something. City Lord. This subordinate will also go. Fong Lingbai bowed and said, if Tu Hong killed those illusory swordsmen, it would be a great merit. As for the tens of thousands of Taoist sect cultivators, it would definitely be justifiable. Of course, their Dao sect cultivators put out a bounty just for Avoid Heaven Sword School's Qingjian. What can they say when our Sky Patrol City's disciples killed more than a dozen Qingjians? Jin Kong echoed. Go. Sage Xueyu narrowed his eyes. Although there was no expression on his face, his words revealed his meaning. Yes, killing 20 illusory swordsmen would definitely be a great merit in the Sword Dao War. The lives of tens of thousands of cultivators were nothing compared to that. In the time it took to eat half a meal, Tu Hong followed Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai back to the main hall. Tu Hong didn't look proud, but Sage Xueyu was slightly angry. When he saw Tu Hong, he didn't wait for him to speak and coldly said, Tu Hong, how dare you? Plop. Tu Hong immediately knelt down and begged with his head, City Lord, Your Excellency. This subordinate isn't trying to hide anything, nor is this subordinate trying to take credit. It's just that this subordinate is nervous. When this subordinate made up his mind to kill all the sword cultivators, this subordinate will definitely not accept this merit. This subordinate must take responsibility. City Lord. Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai bowed and said, the two of us are pleading for Tu Hong. Just now, this subordinate was too impatient and didn't wait for Tu Hong to finish speaking before condemning him. There is a reason why he didn't dare to tell us the result of the battle. You wait, Sage Xueyu waved his hand and said, this old man is not a muddle-headed person. How can I not know the pros and cons? Since there is merit, there should be a reward. If there is a fault, there should be a punishment. This old man is asking Tu Hong, in front of this old man. What kind of trick is he playing? Yes. When Tu Hong heard this, large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His face was ashen, and he kowtowed again. This subordinate deserves to die. This subordinate deserves to die. This subordinate did have a trace of a plan to present the result of the battle to the city lord after you are angry, so that the city lord can forgive this subordinate's sin of using the Tao sect's cultivators as bait without permission. Sage Xueyu snorted coldly. It wasn't clear if he heard it or not. In the main hall, only the sound of Tu Hong kowtowing could be heard. After a while, Sage Xueyu said faintly, "You brought Quan Jinshan's subordinates back to Sky Patrol City and didn't leave anyone to guard Quan Jinshan. When you came to this old man, you didn't even mention the great array of Quan Jinshan. Are you sure that the great array cannot be broken by sword cultivators?" When Tu Hong heard this, he stopped kowtowing. However, he still didn't dare to raise his head. He said softly, "The edge of the great array is now stable and has merged with the spiritual howl. If one doesn't have the strength of a nascent soul, one can't break it by force. If someone tries to break it by force, the spiritual howl will rush out and it will be more powerful than a dozen magic treasures exploding. Even if a nascent soul can teleport, I'm afraid they will also be affected by the spiritual howl. What if a formation master breaks the array from afar?" Reporting to the city lord, the spiritual howl is like a tide in the great array. This spiritual howl is caused by the 9 formation eyes. In each formation eye, there are 81 huge spirit stone crystal pillars and 5 extremely hard jade essences in the depths of Quan Jinshan's spirit stone mine. All spiritual senses can't be used. Even if someone tries to break the array, they can only do it from nearby and not from afar. Tu Hong replied calmly. Sage Xueyu nodded in satisfaction. After thinking for a while, he asked, "What's the matter with the 16 Lingfeng sword sect swordsmen?" When Tu Hong heard this, his face was filled with doubt. He raised his head and said, "I don't know either. I only realized that there were 16 illusory swordsmen after I left the Great Array. It was because of them that I made this decision." When the 16 swordsmen entered the Great Array, they immediately rushed towards the jade essences in Quan Jinshan. They probably wanted to snatch those jade essences, right? Tu Hong thought for a while and said hesitantly, "That's because I have to observe the situation of the swordsmen attacking the Great Array. I can't look at them. They won't be able to escape. I can assure you of that." Tu Hong still didn't have a trace of arrogance. He nodded and said, "Even that beast cultivator, Ing Chao, died when I left. There won't be anyone left alive in the Great Array." Inside the Great Array are the remains of tens of thousands of cultivators and swordsmen, as well as magic treasures and other things. You have to be careful. Sage Xueyu nodded. When will the Great Array calm down? Tu Hong became even more hesitant. After pondering for a moment, he said, "The power of this array is beyond this subordinate's expectations. This subordinate originally thought that it would be able to recover in 3 years, but from the looks of it, it will not stop until 10 years have passed." 10 years later, those illusory swordsmen and nascent soul cultivators will come out. We'll talk about it then. Sage Xueyu nodded and said, "At this time, it's still your golden core cultivators hunting. This old man won't interfere." City Lord, Jing Kong said anxiously, "If you don't come out, how can we explain it to the Yanxi Manor? Those are the lives of tens of thousands of cultivators." "Haha, this old man already said that this is your business and Tu Hong's business. What does it have to do with me?" Sage Xueyu flicked his sleeves and his figure gradually faded away as if he was about to disappear. Tu Hong's face was filled with joy. He kowtowed and said, "This subordinate thanks the city lord. This old man knows you have a gully in your heart, but don't play any tricks in front of this old man. What happened at Golden Spring Mountain will only happen once. There won't be a next time. Yes, this subordinate understands." "Oh, right." Sage Xueyu suddenly remembered something. His figure gradually appeared again. "This old man was a little angry just now. I forgot to ask you. What do you want from this old man?" -8. Chapter 2361. Hearing this, Tu Hong's face turned slightly red. He was actually a little bashful as he said softly, "This subordinate saw a female disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect during the battle at Golden Spring Mountain. That, I would like to request the city lord. Yuqing, ha ha ha, seeing Tu Hong's expression, Shui Yu Master was very happy and laughed. No wonder you sent a disciple of Jinquan Mountain back to Sky Patrol City to deliver things. It turns out that you have such a plan. Well, love between a man and a woman is the natural law. You have done a great service for my Sky Patrol City. How can I not agree? Thank you, City Lord. Tu Hong was overjoyed and kowtowed again. However, the voice of Shui Yu Master could no longer be heard in the hall. Get up. Junior too. Jing Kong laughed. You are really hateful. No wonder the City Lord is angry. He didn't even let you get up when he left. Sigh, Tu Hong looked up and saw that Shui Yu Master was gone. He stood up trembling and smiled bitterly. Senior brothers, this little brother is also completely helpless. Tens of thousands of lives. I don't have any confidence at all. It's useless to say more now. Fong Lung nodded. The City Lord has already let you go and even admitted that you have done a great service. Now the plan is to persuade those Taoist sect cultivators. The City Lord is kind. I will never forget it. Tu Hong said respectfully. The fact that he did not pursue the matter is my biggest hope. I have never thought about the merits. As for the Taoist sect cultivators, I really don't care. Tiske, Jin Kong was speechless. That's tens of thousands of lives. Aren't you afraid that you can't explain it to Yinchi Prefecture? I am a disciple of Sky Patrol City. There are many disciples of Yinchi Prefecture. Why should I be afraid of them? Tu Hong sneered. Don't talk to me about this. Fong Lung said, the City Lord has ordered you to represent Sky Patrol City to enter Yinchi Prefecture's conference hall. You have to explain. That's senior brother Jin Kang's business. I don't want to get involved. Tu Hong quickly waved his hand. Jin Kong clapped his hands and took out the City Lord token of Sky Patrol City. He handed it over and said with a smile, I didn't want to go in the first place, that's why I've been delaying it. Moreover, you've made such a big mistake and you want to clean up the mess yourself? I can't help you. Furthermore, if you want to dual cultivate with a disciple of the Imperial Lightning Sect, how can you do it if you don't interact with Qian Mo of the Imperial Lightning Sect? Fong Lingbai laughed. Brothers, please don't laugh at me. Can't this little brother go over now? Tu Hong's face was flushed red as he took the City Lord token and smiled apologetically. Good, that's right. Jin Kong looked at Fong Lingbai and said with a smile, we'll send you to Yinchi Mansion. When you sit down in the conference hall, we'll go to your mansion to nag. Thank you for supporting me. Tu Hong bowed and thanked them. If it weren't for the two brothers, I wouldn't have dared to go. Haha, Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai both laughed. Each of them grabbed Tu Hong's hand, and the three of them walked out of the main hall. Behind them, the other Foundation establishment cultivators were also laughing and chatting with the three of them. When the three of them came to the conference hall of Yinchi Mansion, the Golden Core Realm cultivators of the Taoist sect were discussing. Seeing Jin Kong and others appear in the conference hall, Cheng Ming, who was in charge today, raised his eyebrows and said, It turns out that the friends of Sky Patrol City have come to visit. Come, please take a seat. With that, he clapped his hands and two futons appeared out of thin air, spinning and landing in front of the three of them. Then, he looked at the empty futon opposite him and said with a smile, Fellow Taoist Jin, it is said that this seat in the conference hall is prepared for you. Why haven't you come after so long? Are you going to sit on it today? Haha. No. Jin Kong smiled and shook his head. Someone is going to sit on it today, but it's not me. Oh, could it be fellow Taoist Fong? Or this fellow Taoist? Cheng Ming obviously did not know Tu Hong and looked him up and down. Later, I will naturally take out the City Lord token. Jin Kang's face tightened. He did not sit down and said lightly, however, before that, I would like to ask fellow Taoist Cheng to tell me about the battle situation. This, Cheng Ming hesitated and said with a smile, the battle situation of the Sword Dao battle. My conference hall will basically prepare another copy and send it to the City Lord Mansion. I think fellow Taoist Jin can see it in the City Lord Mansion, right? Why bother with Cheng Ming's nagging? Haha, of course, I can see it. Jin Kong said with a smile. However, my Sky Patrol City's 3 spirit stone veins have been lost. Fellow Taoist Chung has to give my Sky Patrol City an explanation, right? Oh, the Jingquan Mountain spirit stone veins have also fallen into the enemy's hands? Chung Ming was shocked and immediately came to a realization. He looked at Tu Hong and asked, could it be that this fellow Taoist has returned from Jingquan Mountain? That's right, I am Tu Hong from the Jingquan Mountain spirit stone veins. Tu Hong stepped forward and bowed. Greetings, fellow Taoists from Dao sect. Haha, greetings, fellow Taoists too. The crowd did not dare to delay and stood up to return the greeting. Chung Ming asked curiously, the Jingquan Mountain spirit stone veins have already fallen into the enemy's hands. Why didn't my Dao sect disciples return? Only 3 Imperial Thunder sect disciples returned first? Haha, who said that the Jingquan Mountain spirit stone veins have fallen into the enemy's hands? Jin Kung laughed. I only said that 3 spirit stone veins have been lost, right? What do you mean? Xiang Ming from Huanhua sect was stunned and asked. Huanhua sect had sent the most disciples to Jingquan Mountain. How could he not be anxious? Haha, Junior Brother 2 set up a formation at Jingquan Mountain and killed close to 40,000 sword cultivators and beast cultivators in one fell swoop. Furthermore, there were 20 over illusory swordsmen and 10 over high-leveled beast cultivators and bird cultivators who were buried in the formation. On the way here, Tu Hong had already warned Jin Kong. Jin Kong laughed heartily and told him what Tu Hong had said. 20 over illusory swordsmen? That is comparable to a late golden core stage cultivator. Even if they were to meet a nascent soul stage senior, they might not necessarily fall, right? Xiang Ming was dumbfounded as he spoke in disbelief. All the other gold core cultivators looked at each other. After a moment of silence, they immediately began to discuss loudly. All of their words were filled with disbelief and doubt. Fellow Taoists too. Chinamo opened his mouth. Chinamo asked the Imperial Thunder sect disciples who returned. According to them, your Jingquan Mountain disciples are not that many. How could they have killed so many sword cultivators? What about your Jingquan Mountain disciples? What about the casualties of my Dao sect disciples? Haha, I know that all of you won't believe me. Tu Hong laughed. However, I have evidence in my hands. I will let all of you know immediately. In this battle, my Dao sect has indeed killed 20 over illusory swordsmen. -8. Chapter 2362. Haha, if that's the case. Fellow 2, your contribution is the greatest since the start of the war. No wonder the Snow Region Senior entrusted you with the important task of managing the conference hall. Haha, that's right. Congratulations, fellow 2. The gold core cultivators came to a realization and cupped their hands to congratulate him. Thank you, fellow Taoists. This contribution of mine is inseparable from the plans that you've made in the conference hall. This is all thanks to you, fellow Taoists. I don't dare to praise myself. Tu Hong humbly took out the City Lord token of Sky Patrol City and handed it to Cheng Ming. He smiled apologetically and said, Fellow Taoist Chung, please verify it. Today, I have been entrusted by the City Lord to enter the conference hall. Good. Cheng Ming took the City Lord token and looked at it for a moment before passing it to the other cultivators beside him. He cupped his hands and said, in the future, with the help of Sky Patrol City's fellow Taoists too, our conference hall will be like a tiger that has grown wings. We will defeat the sword cultivators of Huan Country. I still need to borrow the strength of all of you. Sky Patrol City will definitely do its best to support you, Tu Hong said with a smile. After everyone had checked the City Lord token, Tu Hong took it again and said with a smile, Can I take a seat now? Please. Cheng Ming raised his hand and said, Please. The other cultivators said in unison, Thank you. Tu Hong stepped forward and sat on the empty praying mat. Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai also sat on the 2 praying mats. Fellow Taoist 2 has killed 40,000 sword cultivators and nearly 30 more sword cultivators. This achievement should be immediately transmitted to the Dao sect cultivators who are currently fighting. It will also let them know that sword cultivators are nothing in the hands of our cultivators. unable to withstand a single blow. This will also boost their morale. Cheng Ming smiled. Yes, morale is the most important thing in this war. Even if we are going to lose, we can't lose morale. A cultivator clapped his hands and said. When Tu Hong heard this, a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. He glanced at Jin Kong and Fong Lingbai. Their eyes were still the same. Yes, that's right. I will immediately issue the conference hall token. Cheng Ming clapped his hands and said, Fellow Daoist Cheng, don't worry. Tu Hong's expression changed slightly. His smile turned into a miserable one. He waved his hand and said, Fellow Daoist, please listen to my explanation. You can make a decision later. Hee, fellow Daoist too, please speak. Cheng Ming laughed. I haven't been this happy in a long time. I can't help but share this good news with all the disciples who are fighting hard. Well, I can understand fellow Cheng's feelings. Tu Hong nodded. However, this war has always been cruel. It's never a place that only gives out good news. Oh. Cheng Ming's eyelids twitched. He had a bad premonition. I, too, have killed 40,000 sword cultivators. But my Golden Spring Mountain's 30,000 men also fell in this battle. Tu Hong said sadly, even when I return to Sky Patrol City, I can't bring their bodies back? Ah? Hiss. The meeting hall immediately fell silent. Apart from gasps of surprise, there was no other sound. What about my Path Sect's disciples? Xiang Ming said coldly, don't tell me that all of them fell? Tu Hong looked at Xiang Ming and replied calmly, of course not. Oh, hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. However, the next moment, everyone almost fainted. I, too, have brought 11 severely injured Path Sect's disciples back to Sky Patrol City. They are now on their way to the other sect's encampments. What? My Path Sect's disciples. That's more than 5,000 people. Xiang Ming stood up suddenly and said angrily, gone just like that. You have to give me an explanation. Yes, Tu Hong, 5,000 people. How could you let them all fall? Many Golden Core adepts scolded. This situation was indeed within Tu Hong's expectations. However, his face still revealed a miserable expression as he stood up and cupped his hands. Fellow Taoists, this old man feels guilty in his heart. Those 31,000 disciples of Golden Spring Mountain had gone through life and death with me. As for your 5,000 disciples, although I do not have such a deep relationship with them, but since all of you sent them to Golden Spring Mountain, how could I not treat them as my own disciples? Rest assured, my friends, I am not disloyal. Even during the battle, I placed these disciples in the middle and did not let them fall so easily. Tu Hong. Qianmo's expression did not change. After all, only Xiao Hua and the other 6 disciples of Imperial Thunder Sect had fallen. Their losses were the least. Tell me, how did these disciples fall? What is your big formation? Tu Hong nodded and took a deep breath. He suppressed his sobbing tone and said, Senior Brother Jean just said that the spiritual stone vein in Mount Quanjin has been lost and is no longer in the hands of Sky Patrol City. Yes, of course, it is not in the hands of the sword cultivators. It was I, too, who had laid down a large array in the Golden Spring Mountains Spirit Stone Mine. My Golden Spring Mountains disciples and Dao Sect's disciples had lured several tens of thousands of sword cultivators, especially close to 30 Golden Dan stage sword cultivators, into the large array before falling. Sigh, to be honest, if not for the fact that I have to preside over the big formation and cannot die, otherwise, I would have entered the formation to fight. Those 5,000 Dao Sect disciples are really adorable. They are really the most adorable people in this battle. As he said, Tu Hong looked at Jin Kong. Jin Kong clapped his hands, and the magic treasure of Mitsubishi flew up. The screen once again showed the bloody battle situation. When the cultivators finished watching, their hearts were shaken. They were even more excited than Jin Kong and Fang Long. They were cheering for the cultivators who fought to the death. They were also praising Tu Hong's decision that day. Of course, this praise was more derogatory, but at this point, what else could they say? After more than 10 Golden Core cultivators inquired about the details in detail, Cheng Ming and the rest transmitted their voices and said coldly, Fellow Taoist too. Although you are now a member of my discussion hall, you have killed 5,000 of my Dao sect's cultivators. We need to discuss this. Fellow Daoist too, please leave us for a moment. All right. Tu Hong stood up and bowed to everyone. I feel guilty in my heart. Fellow Daoists, please make a decision. After speaking, he looked at Jin Kong and Fong Long. The three of them left the discussion hall. After 2 hours, Tu Hong and the other two were invited back into the discussion hall. At this time, the atmosphere in the discussion hall had calmed down. Fellow Daoist too. Cheng Ming went straight to the point. This time, fellow Daoist too has contributed greatly. However, the number of cultivators who died in this battle is also the highest. I am ashamed. Tu Hong bowed humbly. However, we have already reported to our respective mountain sections. Although some of the sect heads were extremely dissatisfied, most of them understood fellow Daoist two's difficulties. Cheng Ming continued, as the saying goes, killing 1,000 enemies is equivalent to sacrificing 800 of your own men. Furthermore, there were close to 20 golden core cultivators among them. Many thanks to the various sect heads. Tu Hong immediately bowed to the sky. Of course, we will not erase fellow Daoist two's contribution. Cheng Ming continued, however, half of the contribution is taken up by our Dao sect's disciples. Fellow Daoist Cheng. Jin Kong was unhappy. He stood up and said, My Golden Spring Mountain's tens of thousands of disciples. Senior Jin? Tu Hong hurriedly stopped him and said, half of the contribution is taken up by those tens of thousands of disciples. I will definitely not take up half of the contribution. Hee. Golden Spring Mountain's tens of thousands of disciples are all fellow Daoist two's disciples. Naturally, their contribution will be taken up by fellow Daoist two alone. Cheng Ming laughed. My Dao sect's 5,000 disciples are not represented by anyone. Therefore, I have no choice but to inconvenience the Golden Spring Mountain's disciples. Whatever you say. Tu Hong smiled apologetically. All right. Cheng Ming nodded and said, the magic tools and treasures within the Golden Spring Mountain's great array, as well as the flying swords of the sword cultivators, Sky Patrol City can take half of it. The remaining half will be distributed by the various Dao sects according to the number of disciples they have lost. Consider it as compensation for us. Jin Kong still wanted to say something but was stopped by Fong Long. Tu Hong said without hesitation, Of course, I have no objections to this. However, these things will only be distributed after 10 years. No worries. Cheng Ming nodded and said, as long as fellow Daoist 2 agrees, we will go to Golden Spring Mountain to distribute it after 10 years. All right. Also, fellow Daoist 2's contribution will be publicized by the various Dao sect sections. Fellow Daoist 2 is the greatest contributor to this battle. Cheng Ming continued, as for the other 11 disciples who survived, our conference hall will reward them heavily and record their contributions. As for the 5,000 warriors who died, they will also be recorded as their contributions. Yes, that should be the case. Tu Hong agreed obediently. Great. Cheng Ming did not expect Tu Hong to be so easy to talk to, and did not refute him at all. In the end, he clapped his hands and said, Fellow Daoist 2 is decisive and excellent in commanding. The conference hall welcomes talents like fellow Daoist 2. I don't dare. It's all thanks to the support of fellow Daoists. Tu Hong hurriedly got up and said. However, when Tu Hong got up, his eyes looked around. Although many golden core cultivators returned the salute, some of them had gloomy eyes and only raised their hands perfunctorily. At this moment, the center of the conference hall flashed with a strong brilliance. Before Cheng Ming could activate his magic power, a human figure slowly flashed out from the brilliance. Everyone was shocked. When they saw clearly, they all stood up and bowed, shouting, Junior greets Master Xueyu. The person who appeared in the Yin Shi Mansion's conference hall was actually the city lord of Sky Patrol City. This was the first time he came to the Yin Shi Mansion's conference hall. All of you, get up. Xueyu Enlightened Master waved his sleeves, and everyone felt a force supporting them. It was as if 2 warm hands were supporting their shoulders. Thank you, Senior. No one dared to struggle. They straightened up and respectfully replied. Master Shui walked a few steps in the air and came to Tu Hong's side. He lifted his leg and sat on it. Seeing this, everyone no longer dared to stand next to the praying mat. Their figures fluttered and slowly flew to the place where Jin Kong and Feng Lingbai were standing before. They were standing respectfully below Master Shuiyu. -8. Chapter 2363. Cheng Ming stood in front of everyone and said, "I'm Cheng Ming from the Ming country's Celestial Ascension sect. I'm in charge of today's meeting hall. Senior, please tell me what you need." "Hee, I haven't seen Li Feng from your sect in a long time." Shuiyu Enlightened Master looked around and smiled. "Yes, and the sect masters of my little friends. We old farts have been cultivating every day. We can't compare to your hot-blooded and exciting lives. Senior is well-versed in the Tao of Heaven, and your path of cultivation leads to the heavens. You are our role model." Cheng Ming smiled apologetically and said, "How could our game be worthy of Senior's attention?" Shuiyu Enlightened Master only smiled. He looked around and said, "I haven't been to this hall in a long time. Alas, perhaps it won't be long before I have to meet the sect masters of my little friends. Every time we meet, people are in a terrible situation." Hearing this, Cheng Ming and the others could guess why Shuiyu Enlightened Master was here. Cheng Ming turned around and looked at Shang Huazong and the other cultivators from the 3 cultivation countries. They all nodded. "You're right." Cheng Ming turned around and respectfully replied, "Every battle was started by the sword cultivators. Every time, the Tao sect and the sword cultivators lost tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of corpses. This is also unavoidable. After all, this is a cruel war, and it can't be compared to a normal dispute." Then he hesitated for a moment and said, "Also, regarding Tu Hong, we have already decided. Although my sect lost 5,000 disciples, the results of this battle are obvious. 5,000 men sacrificed their lives for the Tao sect. Their deaths were worthy and as heavy as a mountain. Regarding this matter, fellow Taoist Tu Hong's methods were indeed a little inappropriate. However, under the circumstances at that time, he had no choice but to do so. We have already discussed the details with fellow Taoist Tu Hong." Shuiyu Enlightened Master waved his hand and laughed. "This is your game. I won't participate. Tu Hong can decide what he does or doesn't do. I won't interfere with your decision." "Yes." Cheng Ming didn't understand. He thought the same as everyone else. He thought that Shuiyu Zhenren was here to defend Tu Hong. "Haha, I'm here today because I have something good to discuss with the Imperial Thunder sect." A smile appeared on Sage Shui's face as his gaze fell upon Qianmo. Not only was Qianmo shocked, even Tu Hong himself was absolutely shocked. Then, he became wild with joy. His original intention was to mention this to the old man in advance. After this matter was over, he would ask the old man to pass on a message to the Imperial Thunder sect. This way, he would be able to speak to Qianmo of the Imperial Thunder sect. However, he had never expected that Shuiyu's sage would personally come to the conference hall and propose marriage in front of all the Golden Core cultivators of the Tao sects. This face was too big, so much so that it might even become a story to be told by the cultivators of the 3 kingdoms. What made Tu Hong the happiest was that not only was Master Shuiyu's trust and encouragement in him, but Master Shuiyu's arrival also meant that the Imperial Thunder sect definitely wouldn't have any reason to refuse. The Imperial Thunder sect definitely valued the face of a nascent soul cultivator. Under the circumstances where Cui Hongshan had already died in the Golden Spring Mountain Spirit Stone Mine, Dui Qiming could only agree to the proposal of dual cultivation. Qianmo's face was filled with doubt as he stepped forward and bowed. Junior Qianmo of the Imperial Thunder sect greets Master Shuiyu. "May I know?" "Oh, so it's the young friend from the Heavenly Thunder Palace." Master Shuiyu smiled. "I'm here today to make a proposal for a marriage alliance between my Heavenly Thunder sect and the Imperial Thunder sect." "Ah?" Qianmo was even more surprised as he looked at Master Shuiyu in confusion. He smiled apologetically. "May I know which disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect you're talking about? Is it a male disciple or a female disciple?" "Young friend, you should know about the 3 female disciples who returned from the Golden Spring Mountain Spirit Stone Mine. Master Shui went straight to the point and said, "One of them was chosen by Tu Hong." Oh, Qianmo understood and naturally turned to look at Tu Hong. Tu Hong was very obedient at this moment as he lowered his head slightly and didn't say anything. I won't talk about Tu Hong's merits and demerits. Master Shui smiled, however, since he's a capable disciple of my heavenly thunder sect and he rarely speaks in front of me, I can't just ignore his matters. Besides, this is the first time I'm matchmaking someone. I don't know if it's appropriate. All right, Qianmo muttered in his heart. Why didn't you propose earlier or later? Why did you propose now? How could it not be because of Tu Hong's merits? Even if my conference hall judged that Tu Hong was at fault, now that you're here, I can't not reconsider, right? This is the first time I'm matchmaking someone. Sigh. My Imperial Thunder sect must accept this. However, he had seen the 3 female disciples from the Imperial Thunder sect who went to Golden Spring Mountain. They seemed to be the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect and weren't particularly outstanding. If they could really form a marriage alliance with the Heavenly Thunder sect, it would be considered as the female disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect climbing up the social ladder. Oh, Qianmo suddenly realized, those who went to Golden Spring Mountain, aren't they the first team of the Imperial Thunder sect from the shocking Thunder Palace? Damn it, the fate of the first team. Why is it so tragic? First, they were besieged by thousands of sword cultivators at Chicken Crow Mountain. If they hadn't left first, they would have all died in the first battle. What a pity, even if they escaped the first hurdle, they couldn't escape the second one. Tens of thousands of sword cultivators besieged them. However, they died a worthy death. I reckon the conference hall will reward them handsomely. It's better than being killed silently in the wilderness. Qianmo then bowed and said, I'm sorry for my rudeness. May I know which female cultivator of the Imperial Thunder sect you're referring to? Tu Hong has to say it himself. Shui Yu spiritual master said with a smile. Thank you, city master. Tu Hong's eyes were almost filled with tears. He bowed deeply. I didn't expect the city master to care so much for me. I'm willing to sacrifice my life for you. SK. Speak auspicious words on an auspicious day. Shui Yu spiritual master said with a smile. Since you want to be their son-in-law, you have to be sincere and cooperate with the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. Yes, I understand. Tu Hong nodded. Qianmo smiled apologetically. Since you came to the conference hall and proposed marriage in front of so many fellow cultivators, I'm afraid I don't have the qualifications to accept it in person. Would you like to ask Qian Lazy of my humble sect to come forward? Fine. I haven't seen Qian Lazy for a long time. Shui Yu spiritual master said with a wave of his sleeve. For the sake of the younger generation, it's good to see an old friend. Qianmo didn't dare to delay and hurriedly activated a secret technique. Not long after, Qian Lazy's red face appeared on the light screen. -8. Chapter 2364. Oh, that's right. Qian Diheng slapped his forehead and exclaimed, I was wondering why I felt that something was wrong. So it's here. Why didn't I think of going to the Jade Archive Hall? After saying that, he didn't stay any longer. Without saying another word, he turned around and flew out of the cave. Xiangyang, go with Qian Diheng and have a look. Helplessness came to his senses and hurriedly shouted. Yes, I'll go now. Xiangyang was equally excited. He quickly caught up and flew into the sky. Marshal Uncle Zhua. Shui glanced at Sun Shu. Both of them walked over and chatted with Zhuo Minghui. Although they didn't talk much, Zhuo Minghui's shyness was soon gone. She even whispered some private words to them. In just a few hours, Xiangyang and Qian Diheng had returned. Damn it, I really shed a few tears for that guy. Qian Diheng cursed. I knew that guy had a long life. He wouldn't die just like that. What? Helplessness hurriedly got up and asked, Where's Hongshan? His natal spiritual tablet. Haha, good, I know. Seeing the anxious look in the cave residence, Xiangyang smiled and said, I followed junior brother Qian to the Zhenlei Palace. I didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall. Humph. The Jade Archive Hall of the Zhenlei Palace was closed by the sect leader at the beginning of the sword battle. Without the sect leader's personal order, no one can enter. Qian Diheng was a little angry. Even I couldn't enter the Jade Archive Hall. Helplessness listened, and his face darkened. He glared at Xiangyang and scolded. Since you didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall, why are you so happy? Master. Xiangyang smiled apologetically. I didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall, but I saw Jin Liang who was on duty. What did he say? Did he know that Hongshan's natal spiritual tablet wasn't damaged? Helplessness asked helplessly. Xiangyang smiled bitterly and explained. The sect leader also ordered that the disciples on duty in the Jade Archive Hall must report the situation of the natal spiritual tablet to the deacon. He wanted to scold Xiangyang, but he was too lazy to do so. After talking for so long, he still didn't know about Cui Hongshan and Xiao Hua's life spirit tablets. Xiangyang, how do you know that Xiao Hua and Cui Hongshan are fine? Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. She knew that Xiangyang was a steady person. If he wasn't certain, he wouldn't be so happy. All right, teacher. Mother understands, Xiang Yangfen said. When Jin Liang saw that it was me and junior brother Qian, other than explaining to junior brother Qian who wanted to barge into the Jade Archive Hall, he also smiled and told me something. Oh? Zhuo Minghui asked curiously, what did Jin Liang say? Jin Liang said that as early as a few days ago, the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace had already come to the Jade Archive Hall to look at the natal spiritual tablets of the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. Moreover, they came again yesterday with the sect leader's handwritten order in their hands. They specially sealed the natal spiritual tablets of some disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. Other than the sect leader, no one can look at them. Xiangyang emphasized the words, some disciples, as if Jin Liang was the one explaining. Humph, that dog. Qian Diheng curled his lips and sneered. He didn't let me in and even hinted at me from the side. If he didn't say that it was related to my brother, I wouldn't have let him off so easily. Helplessly ignoring Qian Diheng, he pondered for a moment and said cautiously, Xiangyang, are you sure that what Jin Liang said was related to Cui Hongshan and Xiao Hua? Yes, I'm sure. Then, Xiangyang told him about Jin Qing and Xiao Hua. He explained with a smile. Junior brother Xiao and Jin Qing got to know each other after a fight. If he saw that junior brother Xiao's natal spiritual tablet was damaged, he would definitely tell me secretly. What he said didn't violate the rules of the Jade Archive Hall, and also told me about the two junior brothers. Yes, I understand. Helplessly sighed in relief. Zhuo Minghui and the others also looked better. However, the sect leader clearly knew that junior brother Xiao and junior brother Cui didn't die. Why did he still give out the reward? Xiangyang asked with a frown. Senior brother Xiang, this is the sect leader's business. Don't make wild guesses if there's nothing important. Qian Diheng said bluntly. Then, he bowed to helplessly and said, Martial uncle helplessly, since Xiao Hua didn't die, what I said just now is nonsense. I still have something to do. Goodbye. Good. Xiangyang nodded and said to Xiangyang, Xiangyang, help me see the guests out. No need. I'll take my leave now. Qian Diheng nodded slightly to everyone again, turned around, and left as nimbly as when he came. This guy, Sun Shu glanced at Qian Diheng's back and said in a low voice, unless Xiao Hua is here, he looks down on everyone. He won't say a word to anyone. Beside him, Xiangyang smiled bitterly and said to himself, What's this? You haven't seen how that guy messed around in the Jade Archive Hall. If it weren't for the sect leader's order, he would have really rushed into the Jade Archive Hall. Martial uncle helplessly, are you going to go into seclusion soon? Shui chatted with Zhuo Minghui for a while, then raised her head and asked. Yes, this old man is planning to do so. Helplessly nodded. However, this old man feels a little rushed. There are some things that I haven't prepared yet. By the way, is Martial Uncle Sunming free? This old man wants to go over and have a chat with her. This is difficult. Shui covered her mouth and smiled. She looked at Sun Shu and said, Master is also in seclusion. She seems to be breaking through the bottleneck of the middle gold core stage. I'm afraid she can't see Martial Uncle. So it's like this. Helplessly said, Martial Uncle, don't worry. Shui said with assurance, Martial Uncle will definitely be able to condense the core this time. This junior has a premonition. Oh? Helplessly raised his eyebrows and said with some joy, Really? Of course. Shue nodded and said firmly, this junior has some insignificant premonition. It's similar to Xiao Hua's matter. Good. Helplessly's heart suddenly felt at ease. He understood in his heart that there were countless strange people in the cultivation world. There were countless cultivators like Shue who had the bloodline of the true spirit and had strange magical abilities. Since she could judge that Xiao Hua was fine one after another, then her premonition towards him shouldn't be a problem. This old woman also wants to go into seclusion in a few months. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile, Shue, do you think this old woman can condense the core? Shue was stunned, and then said with a smile, Martial Uncle Zhuo, it's still early for you. No matter what, you should wait until the child is a little older. AI, this old woman has been tied up in the late stage of foundation establishment for many years. If I don't think about condensing the core now, I'm afraid I won't have another chance. Shue glanced at Zhuo Minghui's abdomen and bit her lips. She already faintly understood why Zhuo Minghui was pregnant. She thought for a moment and said with a smile, Martial Uncle Minghui, you worry too much. This junior thinks that Martial Uncle will definitely be able to condense the core in a few years. Really? When Zhuo Minghui heard this, her face was overjoyed like a blooming flower. Shue also showed a smile on her face. -8. Chapter 2365. Oh, Shueyu, why are you here? Qianlezi was stunned. He did not expect to see Shueyu Sage. Do you want me to go to Sky Patrol City now? Haha. No. Shueyu Sage cupped his hands. It's very lively here. The juniors are having fun. How can it be my turn? This poor Taoist is here to discuss something with the Imperial Thunder Sect. All right, I'll let sect leader know. Qianemo naturally would not let Shueyu Zhenren repeat himself. He hurriedly took half a step forward and explained what had happened. He smiled and said, this is a joyous occasion for the Imperial Thunder Sect and the Sky Patrol City. I dare not make a decision. I hope that sect leader will step forward and not disappoint Shueyu Zhenren, who personally came to the meeting hall. Oh, Qianlezi smiled and said, this is indeed a joyous occasion. True love can be seen on the battlefield. Only those who can withstand the test of blood and fire can be considered true dual cultivation. Come, let me see. Who is worthy of Shueyu Sage's visit? Tu Hong hurriedly went forward and bowed. Junior Tu Hong greets Senior. Oh, he is indeed a talent. Qianlezi nodded. He is worthy of Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple. Then he looked up. Qianemo, which female disciple of Imperial Thunder Sect is Tu Hong marrying? Yes, Senior. It is Dui Qiming from Sky Patrol Palace. Tu Hong hurriedly said. Haha, Tu Hong. Why are you so anxious? This old man hasn't promised you anything yet. Qianlezi laughed heartily, thinking that Tu Hong was anxious, so he turned to Qianemo and said, go and bring Dui Qiming here. Let this old man take a look. Which beautiful female disciple is it that made the disciples of the Sky Patrol City so worried? Yes, disciple understands. Qianemo bowed and sent out a message. Qianlezi and Shueyu Sage chatted for a while as they waited for Dui Qiming. Qianlezi naturally asked about Tu Hong's reason. He was curious why Shueyu Sage would come to the meeting hall to propose marriage for a golden core cultivator. As for Qianemo, he knew that he couldn't let Shueyu Zhenren tell him the reason, so he respectfully told him about Quan Jinshan. Even though Qianlezi was a nascent soul stage cultivator, he was still shocked when he heard that almost 50,000 sword cultivators and Taoist sect cultivators had died in Tu Hong's hands. He couldn't help but take a few more glances at Tu Hong. Previously, in the message that disciples sent to the sect, the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect, other than Dui Qiming, Ming Mao and Dui Ling, the other 7 members died in the Battle of Mount Quanjin. Qianemo continued, this is also the total number of people that died in the Battle of Mount Quanjin. This disciple was just about to report to the sect master to reward Thunderclap Palace. Oh, it's just that. Master Qianlezi was about to say, only 7 people? But when he saw the cultivators behind Qianemo, he changed his mind and said, yes, of course. These 7 people must be well rewarded. Their masters and relatives must be well compensated. Yes, This disciple understands. Qianmo didn't tell Master Qianlazi the name list of the 7 people. Not long after, Dui Qiming arrived at the meeting hall. This was the first time she came to such an important place, and she was confused. Seeing Master Qianlazi in the image, Dui Qiming didn't dare to be negligent. She immediately bowed and greeted the sect master. Not bad. You are indeed outstanding, Master Qianlazi said with a smile. He looked at Shui Yuzhenren and said, the disciples of your Sky Patrol City have good taste. When Shui Yuzhenren saw Dui Qiming, there was a flash of understanding in his eyes. Even the corner of his eyes twitched slightly as he looked at Tu Hong thoughtfully. Hearing Master Qianlazi's question, Shui Yuzhenren smiled and said, this is the opportunity of the younger generation. I was just helping out. Dui Qiming, this is Shui Yuzhenren, the city master of Sky Patrol City. Come forward and greet him. Qianmo reminded her in a low voice. Yes, I am Dui Qiming from Dui Lei Palace of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Greetings to the city master. Dui Qiming was even more confused. She didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly went forward to greet the city master. Hee, get up. Shui Yuzhenren waved his sleeves and said with a smile, Dui Qiming, do you have a dual cultivation partner? This, Dui Qiming was slightly stunned, but she still said truthfully, I don't have one. Hee, not bad. Master Qianlazi laughed and said, it seems that the disciples of Sky Patrol City have done their homework well. You should have asked about Dui Qiming's background. Well, since Dui Qiming doesn't have a dual cultivation partner, I will make the decision. I agree to this marriage. Thank you so much, fellow Daoist Qian. Shui Yuzhenren cupped his hands and said, when fellow Daoist Qian comes to Sky Patrol City, I will invite you to a cup of wine. Well said. Well said. Master Qianlazi nodded and was about to end the video. But at this moment, Dui Qiming came to her senses and shouted, Sect leader, I have something to say. Oh, what else do you have to say? Master Qianlazi was a little displeased. It was just a dual cultivation between a Foundation establishment disciple. If the other party was not the city lord of Sky Patrol City, he would not have asked. I don't know what's going on. Dui Qiming's face turned red. I don't know. Which fellow Daoist I'm going to dual cultivate with? Haha, Master Qianlazi pointed at Tu Hong and said, of course, it's Tu Hong from Jingquan Mountain whom you met before. He is now the representative of Sky Patrol City in the conference hall. He performed well in the war. You have such a dual cultivation partner. It's not a disgrace to your family background. Don't worry. If you are bullied in Sky Patrol City in the future, you can go directly to the City Lord of Sky Patrol City. If he doesn't care, you can come to me. I will definitely make the decision for you. Ha ha ha. Sect Master. Dui Qiming glanced at Tu Hong. When she came in, she saw the 2 nascent soul seniors, Master Qianlazi and Master Shuiyu. She was so scared that she did not dare to be distracted. Now that she saw Tu Hong, she never thought that this gold core senior would covet her. She hurriedly shouted, although I don't have a dual cultivation partner, but I already have a lover in my heart. It's just that because of the war between Dao cultivators, I didn't have time to hold the dual cultivation ceremony with him. Oh? Master Qianlazi was stunned and unconsciously looked at Master Shuiyu. Master Shuiyu was even more surprised. He firmly believed that Tu Hong would not report to him without checking Dui Qiming's background. If what Dui Qiming said was true, this rash act would immediately become a big joke in the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. Tu Hong looked even more innocent than Master Shuiyu. He was even more surprised than Master Shuiyu. He felt that it was unbelievable. He looked at Dui Qiming with a deathly gaze and said in a low voice, Qiming, I have never been able to forget you since the first time I saw you. You're the most attractive female cultivator I've ever seen in my life. This too doesn't care who your lover is. This too wants to compete with him. I must snatch you from his hands. Senior 2. Dui Qiming's face turned even redder. She said softly, I'm just an ordinary female cultivator. I don't deserve this kind of praise. As for my lover, it's Cui Hongshan, the captain of the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Senior, you've seen him on Mount Quanjin. Ah? When Tu Hong heard this, his face turned pale. His lower lip shrank, and he clenched his teeth. His eyes showed a trace of pain and disbelief. It's all my fault. Tu Hong sighed and lowered his head deeply. Senior Tu? Dui Chi Ming looked at Tu Hong in confusion. She then looked at Master Qian Lazy and Master Shuiyu. Cough, cough. Those two naturally wouldn't explain it to her. Only Qianemo coughed twice and said, Dui Chi Ming, there's actually something. I haven't announced it to the public yet. Once this matter is over, all the cultivators in Sky Patrol City will know about it. It's that the battle on Mount Quanjin has ended. Fellow Daoist 2's battle achievements are outstanding. He killed more than 40,000 sword cultivators. However, the 5,000 disciples of my sect who went to support him also sacrificed their lives. Ah? Chui Lang. Also among them? Dui Qiming was shocked. She almost couldn't believe her ears. She then shouted, Xiao? Junior brother Xiao Hua, also died? Xiao Hua? Qianemo frowned. He didn't know who Xiao Hua was. Oh, Xiao Hua also died? Master Qian Lazy raised his eyebrows. His face was slightly shocked. He was a sect master. Although he knew Xiao Hua, he didn't pay attention to Xiao Hua's every move. He didn't even know that Xiao Hua participated in this battle. Xiao Hua? Heavenly Music Sect's Li Chengshu's face flashed with a trace of refreshment. However, it was followed by a trace of shame and anger. He tilted his head slightly to look at Ardent Fire Mountain's Huoping. However, Huoping's face didn't have any reaction at all. It was as if she didn't recognize Xiao Hua. Humph, you really know how to act. Li Chengshu sneered. Don't talk about a Foundation establishment disciple. Qianemo shook his head. His face was filled with regret. In this battle, 20 Golden Core late-stage swordsmen were killed. The scene was really tragic and heroic. No matter if it's Chui Hongshan or Xiao Hua, they are the role models of my Imperial Thunder Sect's outstanding disciples. My Imperial Thunder Sect will definitely commend and reward them. Qianemo, give me the name list of these 5 people. I'll get people to prepare. To be able to sacrifice themselves for righteousness and kill tens of thousands of swordsmen, this kind of merit must not be ignored. Yes, this disciple will send it to Sect Master, Qianemo said. He activated a secret technique and gave the name list of the 5 people to Master Qian Lazy. Oh, why are they all disciples of Shocking Thunder Palace? Master Qian Lazy was slightly stunned. This Chui Hongshan and Xiao Hua are also disciples of Helpless? This old man remembers. Master Qian Lazy didn't say anything. He turned his head and ordered the disciples beside him. Hearing that even Xiao Hua had fallen, Dui Qiming no longer had any doubts in her heart. Her face was deathly pale, but her mind kept flashing the sweet memories she had with Chui Hongshan. -8. Chapter 2366. Dui Qiming. Naturally, Qianemo could not allow the 2 nascent soul stage seniors to speak. He reminded them, since Chui Hongshan has already died, it means that you have nothing to worry about now. The matter of Sky Patrol City, Daoist Qian. Tu Hong opened his mouth and said very elegantly, it's all because I didn't investigate thoroughly. I didn't expect Dao friend Dui to have such matters. As for fellow Daoist Chui's tragedy, I am also responsible for it. In I's opinion, let's put this matter aside for now. It wouldn't be too late to consider it after fellow Daoist Dui has recovered from his grief. Furthermore, this 2's golden core was also damaged during the battle at Mount Quanjin. Right now, I need to recuperate and recover as well. Oh, so it's like this. Qianmo's gaze swept past Dui Qiming and then back to the 2 nascent soul seniors. Sigh. It's all because of the Great War. Shuiyu Sage sighed. He looked at Qian Lazy and then at Tu Hong. Tu Hong, when will your gold core be repaired? About 5 years should be enough. Tu Hong said after thinking for a while. All right. Sage Shuiyu nodded and said to Qian Lazy, Cultivator Qian, it's settled then. Since Dui Qiming no longer has any worries, let's wait for Tu Hong to repair his gold core. 5 years from now, let's hold the dual cultivation ceremony. I have no objections. Qian Lazy glanced at the pale Dui Qimeng, who seemed to have lost her soul, and said, "Poor child, 5 years. Is enough for her to recover a lot?" "Thank you, Brother Qian." Shui Yuzhenren did not want to stay in the meeting hall any longer. He stood up and cupped his hands. "You're welcome." Qian Lazy returned the salute and said, "This is a joyous occasion for Century City and Imperial Thunder Sect. This old man is also very happy." "Okay." Sage Shuiyu nodded and waved his sleeves. Light flashed around him, and he left the conference hall. "Farewell, Taoist Shuiyu." All the Golden Core cultivators bowed. Only Dui Qimeng remained in a daze. "Chinamo, take good care of Dui Qimeng." Qian Lazy sighed. "Don't let her go to the battlefield for the next 5 years." "Yes, I understand." "Of course," Qianamo agreed. Of course, he would not dare to send a female cultivator who was going to marry into the Sky Patrol City to the battlefield. "Thank you for your hard work." Qian Lazy glanced at the others and said with a smile, "We've all seen your contributions, you." When Qian Lazy was about to say something, his face suddenly showed a trace of astonishment, as if he was looking at something. After waiting for a while, he turned around and said with a smile, "All of you can leave now. Qianamo, I have something to ask you." This junior will take his leave. Even though Qian Lazy was speaking to Qianamo and the others might not be able to hear them, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, all the cultivators bowed respectfully. One by one, they formed hand seals and left the hall. Junior will also take her leave. Dui Qimeng finally regained her senses and bowed respectfully. "All right, Dui Qimeng, you should go back and rest." Qian Lazy nodded. "It's your fortune to be able to marry a Golden Core cultivator from Century City. However, this is all up to you. If you're unwilling, I won't let you stay in Sky Patrol City." "Yes, I understand." Dui Qimeng smiled bitterly. However, with two nascent soul cultivators personally speaking, she couldn't have any rebellious thoughts in her heart, especially after Cui Hongshan had fallen. As for Qian Lazy's words, she didn't hear any other meaning at all. After Dui Qimeng left, Qianamo then respectfully said, "Regarding the incident at Jinshanquan, only 7 of our Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples died. Among all the sects, we suffered the least losses. Therefore, this disciple did not personally report to the sect master." "Yes, I'm not talking about this." Qian Lazy waved his hand and said, "You all are at the front line and have to make your own decisions. You can't report everything to me." "Yes." Qianamo bowed, but his heart was puzzled. "Have you confirmed that Xiao Hua and Cui Hongshan died?" Qian Lazy asked inexplicably. This disciple just heard from Tu Hong. Qianamo was stunned. This disciple hasn't confirmed it yet. However, this disciple has already seen the video. Although there were no Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples in it, the scene was indeed tragic. The cultivators in the middle stage of Foundation establishment were killed by the swordsmen, and the 20 to 30 illusory sword cultivators were also killed by the formation. Xiao Hua and Cui Hongshan shouldn't have survived. "Yes, you tell me about the battle." Qian Lazy nodded. After Qianamo told him about the formation, Qian Lazy nodded. This Tu Hong is indeed a cruel and merciless person, and also a rare talent. No wonder Shui Yu's spiritual master came personally to propose marriage. Yes. Qianamo smiled apologetically. In addition, this disciple even thinks that Tu Hong may not be unaware of the relationship between Dui Qimeng and Cui Hongshan. Yes, this kind of thing can't be verified by the dead. You don't need to say more. Qian Lazy naturally understood. Dui Qimeng marrying into Sky Patrol City. Qianamo thought Qian Lazy was going to say this, so he hesitated. If the sect master doesn't agree, why would this old man not agree? Qian Lazy sneered. Shui Yu's spiritual master went all out to encourage his subordinates. How can this old man not give him face? Besides, isn't it just a Foundation establishment disciple? My Imperial Thunder sect even got a gold core son-in-law. Why would this old man not be happy? Sect master, what do you mean? Qianamo was even more confused. Just now, this old man told the disciples to prepare the rewards for Cui Hongshan and the other disciples. Qianlezi said patiently. However, the disciples checked the Jade Archive Hall of Jinlei Palace as usual. Only then did they find that Cui Hongshan, Xiao Hua, and the other 5 people's natal spirit tablets were all intact. Ah? This doesn't seem possible, right? Qianmo was shocked. This disciple saw with his own eyes that thousands of Dao sect disciples were killed, and even eaten by the blood disaster beast. Yes, this old man has heard of the great formation that Tu Hong set up. Qianlezi nodded. The spiritual howl of that great formation is very powerful, and even if this old man and the others went there, we wouldn't dare to break it. Moreover, that spiritual howl also isolated all divine sense, so no one could see what was going on inside. Or, maybe this is why the natal spirit tablets are not damaged. At this point, Qianlezi found it hard to explain. After all, the natal spirit tablet was different from divine sense. Yes, this disciple understands. This disciple will go and check on the disciples of the other sects. Qianmo nodded, but then he scratched his head. Should we inform Dui Qiming about the rewards for these 7 disciples? This naturally has to be done. Qianlezi smiled. We can't disappoint the other disciples because of some suspicions. Moreover, if they can survive, their contributions will be great, and they deserve to be rewarded. As for Dui Qiming, she doesn't need to know. From the moment Tu Hong saw her, her fate has already been decided. Yes, this disciple understands. Qianmo nodded. Even if Cui Hongshan survives, facing a gold core cultivator like Tu Hong, he can't compare at all. Yes, Qianlezi nodded. Shuiyu spiritual master personally proposed marriage. How many people can there be in the Xiaoyu continent? Yes, this disciple understands. Qianmo replied respectfully. Qianlezi waved his hand, and his figure slowly disappeared. -8. Chapter 2367. Only Qianmo was left standing in the meeting hall in a daze. Although today's matter was simple, it was really strange. It had nothing to do with the Imperial Thunder Sect, but in the end, it fell on the Imperial Thunder Sect's head. The strangest thing was that although the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect had died, their life spirit tablets were not damaged. According to Tu Hong's decisiveness in the video, such a situation would never happen. Hee, even if they didn't die, what does it have to do with me? After thinking for a moment, Qianmo shrugged. After all, it was only a small team of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even the first team only had 7 people, and they were disciples of the Thunder Palace. Compared to thousands of disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, it was nothing. Subsequently, Qianmo secretly inquired about the other sections. Unexpectedly, all the disciples of the other sects who died in Jinquan Mountain had their life spirit tablets damaged without exception. When he reported this to Qianlezi, Qianlezi only frowned slightly to indicate that he understood, and did not say anything else. Qianlezi did not care about this matter, even if Qianmo did not care about it. Therefore, the rewards of the 7 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect were announced together with the rewards of the other Dao sect cultivators in Sky Patrol City. Naturally, Tu Hong's name was at the top. After all, this was killing tens of thousands of sword cultivators. It was definitely a great merit. Although the Yanxi Prefecture in Sky Patrol City would announce the results of the battle every once in a while, and the Battle of the Spiritual Stone Vein had become the focus of everyone's attention. However, once the Battle of the Spiritual Stone Vein in Jinquan Mountain was announced, all the other battles were overshadowed. 5,000 Dao sect cultivators, 30,000 disciples of Jinquan Mountain, 40,000 sword cultivators, nearly 30 illusory swordsmen. Just by looking at these numbers, not to mention the illusory swordsmen, it was enough to make all the cultivators speechless. Just as the Snow Region sage said, Tu Hong's generosity was too great, so great that even he was a little surprised. These results should only be achieved after the nascent soul cultivators and illusory swordsmen came out, but Tu Hong had done it 10 years earlier. Tu Hong's name instantly swept through the entire Sky Patrol City like a hurricane. It swept through the entire 3 cultivation countries and even reached the ears of the sword cultivators of the Huan country. Above the Blue Lake, Lu Ruochang of the Black Phoenix Sword Sect had a look of shame and anger on his face. He coldly looked at a white-haired swordsman not far from him. The swordsman's face was somewhat similar to Ling Yunwu's. His lips were slightly pursed, and he did not say a word. The swordsman also narrowed his eyes and stared at LV Ruochang. Both of their gazes were like electricity, and sparks were about to fly. Ahem, ahem. A female swordsman not far from LV Ruochang was failing swordjuang rualing. Looking at the two of them, she coughed a few times and said, "Friend LV Jianyu, friend Ling Jianyu, we are all swordsmen of the sword region. At this time, we should be united against the outside world. Why do we have to exhaust ourselves here?" "Humph, I don't want to either." The one called friend Ling Jianyu was Ling Mayu of the Soaring Wind Sword Sect. He was Ling Yunwu's senior brother. He sneered and said, 10 swordsmen of the Soaring Wind Sword Sect, and the swordsmen we invited were all buried in the spiritual stone mine of Mount Quanjin. I only said a few words, and friend LV Jianyu actually gave me such a look. Why should I be nice to her? Humph, Ling Yunwu messed up the mission I gave him. He went to Mount Quanjin to look for clues. He encountered a great battle and died. It's fate. How can you blame me? Your nose is not your nose, and your face is not your face. Why are you throwing a tantrum at me? Do you know? Ling Yunwu lost my black silk wood and sword pouch. How big of a delay did he cause? Because of this, the Beast Cultivator's senior Qingfeng will lose his life. Moreover, more swordsmen will lose their lives. What you said is only a possibility. Our Soaring Wind Sword Sect has already paid for this with the lives of 10 illusory swordsmen. Ling Mayu said angrily. Swordsman, there's no need to argue. The short beast cultivator, Qingfeng, said with a bitter face. Swordsman Ling Yunwu died in Mount Quanjin. Presumably, the cultivator he was looking for also died. I'm afraid there's no hope for the sword pouch and black silk wood. I will go to Chestnut Valley to look for the spirit-swallowing bugs. However, LV Jianyu, I'm not black silk wood. Even if I risk my life, I won't be able to find it in a short time. You have to be prepared. The great array of Mount Quanjin is actually so terrifying. Even Senior Hua Jian can't break it at will. Maybe the sword pouch and black silk wood are inside. LV Ruochang said with a frown. Qin Jian of the Void Heaven Sword School said with a bitter smile, It's true. I personally want to check it. The spiritual roar inside is extremely powerful. At this time, even Senior Hua Jian will be injured, even if the sword pouch and black silk wood are inside. I'm afraid they have already been destroyed. No wonder. The conference hall of the Yin Shi Mansion would send a message through a disciple. Within 10 years, everyone will hide the great array of Mount Quanjin. Wait until the spiritual roar of the great array stops, or wait for Senior Hua Jian and the nascent soul cultivators to make a move. LV Ruochang said thoughtfully, if they can handle it, why would they think of us? Yes, the cultivators of the Dao sect. I'm afraid they have some intention of delaying. Qin Jian also nodded. Anyway, we still have to pay close attention to Mount Quanjin. Alas, Senior Qingfeng, how much time do you need? LV Ruochang knew this and looked at Qingfeng again. Qingfeng was born with a bitter face. After thinking for a while, his wrinkled face was filled with helplessness. I can't be sure about this. At least a few months, at most a few years. Even, I won't get anything. Yes, I understand. LV Ruochang nodded and said to Qingfeng seriously, I'll have to trouble Senior Qingfeng with this matter. My sword domain will never forget Senior's contribution. In addition, I will also ask the sword friends of the 7 spiritual mountains to make a move. Good. Qingfeng nodded and said no more. Tu Hong. He is indeed vicious and merciless. LV Ruochang gritted her teeth. Why haven't I heard of this person before? My sword domain's warriors have mostly won in the fight for the spiritual stone mines. It was only at this Mount Quanjin that we suffered such a huge loss. Close to 40,000 swordsmen. I don't even know how to explain this to the sword heads. LV Jianyu, you don't have to worry about it. Qin Jin laughed. The Dao sect's cultivators also lost close to 40,000, similar to our sword domain's losses. It's just that, It's because the sword friends of the Soaring Wind Sword sect went to help. That's why the losses were greater. Alas, that's right. LV Ruochang had to admit that if not for the matter with Ling Yunwu, she definitely wouldn't be so angry. Following which, LV Ruochang clasped her hands and said, "Brother Ling, I'm really a little anxious. Please forgive me." And Ling Mayu saw that LV Ruochang actually took the initiative to apologize and hurriedly returned the greeting. "My Soaring Wind Sword sect has suffered heavy losses this time. I'm also angry. I was too rash." "Haha, isn't that all right?" Ruo Ling laughed. "Our sword domain swordsmen have always been honest with each other. 100 times better than the Dao sect's cultivators who scheme against each other." "That's right." Qin Jin sneered. "Tu Hong is just a golden core cultivator. I'll find an opportunity to kill him. That way, I'll be able to resolve my hatred as a swordsman." "Brother Qin, you're right." Ling Mayu shook his head and said, "It's a pity that this fellow has already entered the Yin Shi Mansion's conference hall and won't easily leave the Sky Patrol City. I'm afraid it won't be easy to kill this fellow." I know. I've fought with the Dao sect's cultivators for so long. I've learned some things. I'll think of a way." Qin Jin nodded. The Battle of the Spiritual Stone Mines was just a test. However, we also know that cultivators are treacherous and cunning. In the future, we still have to be more detailed in our plans. Don't let the cultivators beat us at our own game again. Lu Ruochang pondered for a moment and discussed the next step with many swordsmen. The Huan Kingdom's swordsmen hated the battle at Mount Quanjin to the bone, and the battle at Mount Quanjin had attracted the attention of many swordsmen and cultivators. One must know that there were tens of thousands of cultivators and swordsmen's remains. There must be a lot of magical treasures left behind. If anyone could obtain some magical treasures from Mount Quanjin, it would be worth a lot of spiritual stones in EG. Who wouldn't be jealous? But the strange thing was that the Yin Shi Mansion's conference hall and the Huan Kingdom sword cultivators had issued a ban. All cultivators and sword cultivators were prohibited from entering the 100-mile radius around Mount Quanjin. Once they were discovered, they would be killed immediately. Such a ban naturally couldn't stop the greedy cultivators. Even some sword cultivators secretly went there. The city guards and sword cultivators of the Sky Patrol City had a tacit understanding, each of them patrolling different areas at different times. After killing many cultivators and sword cultivators, the number of people who went to Mount Quanjin had decreased. As for whether there were any high-level cultivators who secretly went there, that wasn't something that the patrolling disciples would know. But one thing was certain, that Mount Xuanjin's Great Array had no movement at all. If Mount Xuanjin's Great Array didn't have any movement, then no one would disturb Xiaohua's forced cultivation. However, Imperial Thunder Sect's 10,000 Thunder Valley had caused a great disturbance. Today was Xiang Zhili's resting day. He was following Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian as they flew towards the sky of 10,000 Thunder Valley. Xiang Zhili was flying around his father and mother restlessly, and at the same time, he was asking some questions in a low voice. These questions were naturally not about his cultivation in Jinlei Palace, but the simplified cultivation method of the dragon transformation art. The dragon transformation art was indeed broad and profound. Even someone as strong as Xue Xue had to spend a long time comprehending it under Xiaohua's guidance. How could Xiang Zhili be able to do it in one go? Usually, the little fellow was very cautious and never revealed anything. Only after he finished a day's worth of cultivation did he go into the quiet room to comprehend and cultivate the dragon transformation art alone. The questions that he had accumulated over the past month could only be found at this time to ask his parents. Furthermore, Xiang Zhili followed Xiaohua's instructions and didn't read out the complete cultivation method to Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian. He only told them the parts that he didn't understand and his own comprehension and doubts, allowing Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian to explain. This kind of happy situation was what Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian liked the most. Not only could they watch their beloved son grow up, but they could also enjoy the happiness of family. It was really rare. However, as Xiang Zhili's cultivation of the dragon transformation art deepened, Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian started to be surprised. Because Xiang Zhili's questions were becoming more and more profound, not only did they far exceed the knowledge of qi refinement cultivators, but even more so, they far exceeded the cultivation of Tao sect cultivators. Furthermore, from Xiang Zhili's questions, Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian could faintly deduce the power of the dragon transformation art after successfully cultivating it. It was definitely several times stronger than the same level of cultivation. -8. Chapter 2368. Xiang Yang, who had always been cautious, was somewhat anxious. Occasionally, he would express some thoughts in front of Yin Qinglian, wanting Xiang Zhili to stop a little and wait until Xiaohua returned. After all, having someone to guide him was completely different from not having anyone to guide him. But Yin Qinglian was extremely confident in Xiaohua, knowing that he would absolutely not do anything he wasn't confident in, especially when it came to her beloved son. Therefore, she always disagreed with Xiang Yang's caution. Just like today, after Xiang Zhili stopped Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian, his little mouth pouted, somewhat dissatisfied, but his eyes were filled with excitement. He activated the flying talisman and flew several zhang forward, looking left and right at the familiar scenery, even whistling the tune he had just learned. Xiang Yang transmitted his voice to Yin Qinglian. "Wife, I think it's better to let Li stop a little. The thing he cultivates, even we, middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators, can't answer. If he continues to cultivate, won't there be a problem?" "Humph. Middle-stage foundation establishment." Yin Qinglian raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "You seem to be more than middle-stage foundation establishment, right?" "Hee. Wife also noticed?" Xiang Yang had a smile on his face. "I've also caught up with you. If I cultivate bitterly for another 5 to 10 years, I'll definitely be able to accompany you into late-stage foundation establishment." "Yes, from early-stage foundation establishment to late-stage foundation establishment. Whose credit is it?" Yin Qinglian was still all smiles as she said. Xiang Yang sighed and said, "Alas, I know it's junior brother Zhao's credit. But you can't always mention junior brother Xiao every time you mention Li Er. Admittedly, he's Li Er's adoptive father, admittedly very powerful, but after all, he was in the middle of a great battle and wasn't in Myriad Thunder Valley." "Didn't you hear junior brother talk about it?" Yin Qinglian said. "Some things that Li Er doesn't understand, of course we can answer, but if we let him comprehend it himself, it'll be even better for his cultivation. The problem is..." Xiang Yang stamped his feet. "This cultivation method is overbearing and strange. Is junior brother strange? Is junior brother overbearing?" Yin Qinglian said with conviction. "But..." The clumsy Xiang Yang was a little anxious. At this moment, several disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace flew over from the opposite side. The one in front was actually a late Golden Core Stage disciple. Xiang Yang, Yin Qinglian, and Xiang Zhili did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly shut their mouths and stood in midair to respectfully salute. The Golden Core cultivator looked at the three of them, smiled, and raised his hand to indicate that he was leaving. They. What's the matter?" Xiang Yang was puzzled. "Who knows? Let's go back and ask Master." Yin Qinglian replied with a strange expression on her face. "All right." Xiang Yang scratched his head as if he didn't want to see her. In less than an hour, the cave abode was in sight. Xiang Zhili activated his flying talisman and rushed to the front. Xiang Yang opened his mouth, wanting to stop Xiang Zhili, but he didn't know what to say. Yin Qinglian smiled wryly as she looked at Xiang Yang. Both of them flew towards the Immortal's Cave. Xiang Zhili was the first to enter the Immortal's Cave. He was still respectful as he walked quickly to Immortal's Cave and bowed, saying that he had seen Grand Master. However, Immortal did not seem to be happy like before. Instead, he forced a smile on his face and asked him to stand up. Xiang Zhili felt that something was wrong. However, when he turned to salute Zhuo Minghui again, he was even more surprised. Zhuo Minghui's abdomen was slightly bulging, her face was slightly red, and there were tears in her eyes. "Greetings, Grand Master." Xiang Zhili's heart trembled. After saluting respectfully, his gaze fell on Zhuo Minghui's abdomen. There was curiosity in his clear gaze. Thus, Zhuo Minghui was even more embarrassed. Immortal's face was also slightly unnatural, but it was sometimes covered by a touch of sorrow. Then, Xiang Yang and Yin Qinglian entered the Immortal's Cave. Obviously, they immediately felt the oppressive atmosphere in the immortal's cave. Instantly, an extremely bad feeling rose from the bottom of their hearts. That's right, since the start of the war, the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples had also suffered casualties. Grievous news and obituaries were constantly sent back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiangyang and Yin Qinglian naturally heard about it. How could they not know when they saw their master and mistress so sad? Xiangyang and Yin Qinglian did not have time to salute and hurriedly said, "Master." "Is it?" The two junior brothers? Then, the two of them did not dare to say more. They only looked at Immortal, afraid that they would get a definite answer from him. Immortal sighed helplessly and nodded slightly. "Is it junior brother Xiao or junior brother Cui?" Xiang Yang's heart was immediately filled with sorrow, and a sense of powerlessness welled up. The two of them. He could only say two words helplessly. Seeing two of his disciples die just like that, his heart was indeed like being stabbed by a knife. Impossible. Xiang Zhili's loud voice immediately rang out. "Foster father is so powerful. How could he die? This is absolutely impossible." But then, his small hand covered his mouth, and his eyes darted around, as if he knew that he had revealed something. Alas! Immortal sighed helplessly and threw a jade archive in his hand to Xiangyang, saying with a wry smile, "Not to mention Li, who doesn't believe it. Even your master and mistress don't believe it." The two children did not look like they died young. Especially Hong Shun. No matter how you look at it, he looks like he will become someone great in the future. But the person who sent the message was a disciple of the Heavenly Thunder Palace, and the message was also the Heavenly Thunder Palace Master's commendation order. It said that Xiao Hua and Hong Shun sacrificed themselves for righteousness and fought with sword cultivators at the Spring Gold Mountain Spirit Stone Mine in Sentry City, killing tens of thousands of sword cultivators, including more than 30 golden core sword cultivators. Sacrificed themselves for righteousness? Xiangyang was slightly stunned. In his mind, this term did not seem to be associated with Xiao Hua. Alas, 30 golden core swordsmen, ah? He sighed helplessly. Even if this old man went there, it would be impossible for him to survive, let alone Hong Shun and Xiao Hua. Xiangyang and Yin Qinglian were certainly very confident in Xiao Hua, but when they heard that there were 30 golden core swordsmen, the two were also stunned. Yes, no matter how powerful Xiao Hua was, he could not be compared with golden core swordsmen, let alone 30 golden core swordsmen. When Xiangyang and Yin Qinglian saw the Jade Archive, their faces were even more ashen, and their faces were as ugly as Zhuo Minghui's. Alas, they're all dead. What's the use of this commendation order? Xiangyang sighed and turned to walk to his chair. His footsteps were somewhat staggered, as if he had aged a few years in an instant. "Humph, it's still the Heavenly Thunder Palace Master's commendation order," he said helplessly and self-deprecatingly. "I've lived for so long, but I've never seen such a standard commendation order. Today, thanks to my two disciples, my horizons have been broadened. Master, no matter what, the two junior brothers have won glory for our 10,000 Thunder Valley." Yin Qinglian thought for a moment and said while suppressing her grief, "Didn't the commendation order say it? Junior brother Cui is in charge of the first team of our Heavenly Thunder Sect and has outstanding military achievements. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian.com to vote for recommendation and monthly votes. -8. Chapter 2369. Bullshit. Helplessness cursed. What's the use of these battle merits? Only when a person is alive can there be battle merits. If a person is dead, there will naturally be no battle merits. Sigh, even the heavens don't give me a chance to breathe. Helplessness raised his head and said, "I originally wanted to go into seclusion to break through to the Golden Core realm. How can this old man still have the mood?" Husband, Zhuo Minghui, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. "Things have already come to this. Husband, you should calm down a bit." As she spoke, Zhuo Minghui's hand naturally rested on her belly. "Grandmaster, why is your belly so big?" Xiang Zhili restrained himself for a long time, but in the end, he couldn't hold back and asked, "Did you eat too much?" "Hee hee, you child. Zhuo Minghui's face turned even redder. Yin Qinglian looked at Zhuo Minghui's bashful expression and stole a glance at Xiangyang. Xiangyang was also a bit unnatural. Ever since helplessness and Zhuo Minghui used a secret technique to consume the inner cores of the male and female lightning beasts, they rarely came to helplessness's cave. They were afraid of this kind of awkwardness. No one knew the power of the inner cores better than them. Now that Xiang Zhili asked, they couldn't not answer. Lear. Yin Qinglian waved her hand and said, Grandmaster is pregnant with your junior martial uncle. It's just like when you were in mother's arms when you were young. Oh? This child is aware of this. Xiang Zhili came to a realization, but he still said casually, Grandmaster is already so old. How can you still be pregnant with junior martial uncle? Junior martial uncle? Wouldn't he be even younger than the boy? Zhuo Minghui was so embarrassed that her face turned red like a piece of cloth. She almost wanted to fly back to the inner palace. Xiang Zhili was still smart after all. He immediately realized his inappropriate behavior and Zhuo Minghui's embarrassment. He chuckled and said, It's great that Li Er has a junior martial uncle. Li Er will definitely take good care of him and protect him well. As soon as he said that, the four of them felt their hearts ache, and tears almost flowed out. Sigh. It seems like my myriad Thunder Valley is lacking in people. With Li Er and Wu Qing, Xiao Hua and Hong Shun are going. Xiang Zhili gritted his teeth and sighed. Wu Qing? Zhuo Minghui was shocked and asked curiously, Husband, is this the name you gave the child? That's right. Helplessly, he nodded. Man's suffering in this world is burdened by the word love. If he gets rid of the word love, he will be free and unfettered. Let the child be called Wu Qing. Yes. Although Zhuo Minghui was dissatisfied with the name, she had no choice but to agree reluctantly. It was easy to change the child's name. He would wait until the child was born and grew up. Where's Qimeng? Yin Qinglian suddenly thought of something and asked. It wasn't mentioned in the reward order. I think it's fine. Zhuo Minghui replied. What a good kid. It's a pity that Hongshan doesn't have such luck. Du Shui Shui? And Sun Shu know? Xiang Yang looked at Yin Qinglian and asked helplessly. The commendation order has just arrived. He said helplessly. I'm afraid they don't know yet. However, according to the disciple who passed down the order, the entire Imperial Thunder Sect must know about it. It won't be long before they know about it. Alas, two pitiful children. Zhuo Minghui sighed again. They also have a hard life. As he spoke, helplessly suddenly raised his head and looked outside. Qian Diheng is here. Alas, this child is actually quite close to Xiao Hua. Disciple will go and welcome him. Hearing that Qian Diheng had come, helplessly got up and said, Yes, go. He is the legitimate son of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. When Xiao Hua was here, he naturally had to entertain him. Now that he's not here, we can't be rude. Helplessly waved his hand. A moment after Xiang Yang left, Qian Diheng rushed in from outside the cave like a monkey. As soon as he entered the door, he shouted, Martial Uncle Helplessness, let disciple see the commendation order. Yes, Helplessness couldn't blame Qian Diheng for his rudeness. He handed the Jade Archive to him. Qian Diheng carefully looked at it. His face was extremely disappointed. He turned his hand and returned the Jade Archive to Helplessness. He scratched his head and was puzzled. Damn it, how could this guy be gone? Why didn't I feel anything? This guy had always been cautious and could run away. How could he sacrifice his life for righteousness? However, Qian Diheng muttered to himself for a moment. He looked at Helplessness and bowed. Martial Uncle Helplessness, when this junior saw the commendation order in the Heavenly Thunder Palace, this junior felt that this matter was a little strange. But as for the specifics, this junior couldn't say. Now that I've seen the Jade Archive personally signed by the sect leader, I still feel that something is wrong. But as for the specifics, this junior couldn't say. That, in any case, Xiao Hua is this junior's brother. Although he may have left, if there's anything in the myriad Thunder Valley in the future, you can still look for this junior. In addition, this junior had some transactions with Xiao Hua. Now that he's gone, this transaction will be handed over to the myriad Thunder Valley in the future. Of course, it's still too early to say this. But this junior will say this first. Lest Xiaohua, that guy, blame this junior in the underworld. Damn it, Xiaohua is gone. How come this senior doesn't feel the slightest bit of grief? Qian Diheng rubbed his eyes. Helplessly, the others were baffled. They didn't know what Qian Diheng was talking about, so they couldn't interrupt. Qian Diheng rubbed his eyes with all his might, but there were still no tears. He could only shrug his shoulders awkwardly and say, Qian, have let down that guy Xiaohua. He's gone. But this senior didn't shed a single drop of fake tears. But just as he said this, a kind of sadness suddenly emerged from his heart. An inexplicable sadness immediately filled Qian Diheng's entire body. Qian Diheng's nose suddenly turned sour, and a few drops of tears flowed out. This senior. Qian Diheng said a few words, turned around, and flew out of the cave. Junior brother Qian. Xiang Yang was anxious and wanted to chase after him. Yin Qinglian grabbed Xiang Yang and said anxiously, "Where are you going?" Junior brother Qian, Xiang Yang was a little stunned. He pointed outside the cave, as if he wanted to distinguish something. Alas, he sighed helplessly and said, Xiaohua, that little bastard, actually made friends with Qian Diheng, a good brother who treated each other with sincerity. I really didn't expect that the playboy of the heavenly Thunder Palace was also a true cultivator. Hearing this, Xiang Yang's face turned slightly red. When he heard the news of Xiaohua and Cui Hongshan's deaths, his mind was filled with disbelief. But when it came to grief and sadness, he really didn't cry. How could he compare to Qian Diheng, who actually had tears streaming down his face? Looking at Xiang Zhili again, he was staring at Zhuo Minghui's bulging belly with his small eyes, as if he was curious about how his martial uncle, who he had never seen before, could miraculously come out from inside. As for Xiaohua's death, he didn't take it seriously at all. Alas, maybe it's because junior brother Xiao, the time he spent in the myriad Thunder Valley was too short. Xiang Yang sighed. This familial affection has also faded a lot. Thinking about this, that kind of sadness also slowly came. Xiang Yang's eyes also became a little moist. The matter of Xiaohua and Cui Hongshan slowly flashed in his mind. At this time, he heard a clear voice from outside. Qian Diheng, what's wrong with you? Why are your eyes so red? Sun Shu is here. Xiang Yang immediately raised his eyes to look at Yin Qinglian. Yin Qinglian hastily got up, and Zhuo Minghui's face became even redder. My eyes were confused by the sand. What's wrong? Have you never been confused before? Qian Diheng's slightly overbearing voice sounded. Haha, senior brother Qian, don't worry too much. Xiaohua is fine. This smiling voice naturally belonged to Xue. Everyone was stunned. Whether it was Wu Qi and Zhuo Minghui who were sitting on the jade chairs, or Xiang Yang who had already stood up, or even Yin Qinglian who had walked to the door to welcome them, they all showed astonishment on their faces. While they were talking, Xue, Sun Shu, and Qian Diheng walked in. The three of them had different expressions. Qian Diheng's eyes were red, and there was embarrassment on his face. Sun Shu's eyebrows were tightly knitted, and the deep worry on his face was difficult to erase. Looking at Xue again, she had a smile on her face. Although there was a trace of worry in her eyes, there was no sorrow. Yin Qinglian welcomed the three of them into the cave. Xue and Sun Shu stepped forward to greet Wu Qi and Zhuo Minghui. The two of them also very naturally saw that Zhuo Minghui was pregnant, and both of them changed into smiles to congratulate Zhuo Minghui. Zhuo Minghui lightly bit her lips, and a faint blush appeared on her face. She asked, Xue, what did you say just now? Xiaohua is fine. You, how did you know? Then what about Hongshan? Haha, good for martial uncle Zhuo to know. This concubine and Xiaohua have some connection. Xue smiled and said, this concubine also just heard about the commendation order that was sent to Sunlei Palace and knew about Xiaohua and the others. But this concubine didn't feel that something had happened to Xiaohua. So, I was afraid that martial uncle Wu Qi and martial uncle Zhuo would be worried. So I hurried over with senior sister Sun to inform them. As for martial brother Cui and the others, Xue hesitated and said, this concubine doesn't know. But since Xiaohua is fine, they must be fine too. Even if something happened to them, Xiaohua wouldn't ignore it. After all, they are the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Martial brother Xiao is the most generous to his own teammates. Sun Shu was still half believing and half doubtful, but she also agreed with absolute certainty. Wu Qi and the others smiled somewhat bitterly. Although, when Xiaohua met with danger in QC, Shui knew in advance that Xiaohua would be fine. But this time was different. After all, the commendation order of the head of Heavenly Thunder Palace had already been sent out, and the situation had also been clearly explained. How could Xiaohua and Cui Hongshan possibly be alive? Wu Qi glanced at Zhuo Minghui, and the two of them suddenly understood, thinking that Shui was comforting them. This concubine also doesn't really believe it. Sun Shu lightly clenched her teeth and said in a low voice, "But since martial sister Shui is martial brother Zhao's lover, perhaps she can really sense martial brother Zhao's safety?" "You can really sense it?" Qian Diheng didn't believe it. Actually, this concubine already thought about it on the way here. Shui smiled mysteriously and said, "It's very simple to prove what this concubine said. Martial Uncle Wu Qi only needs to go to Heavenly Thunder Palace's Jade Archive Hall. Isn't that enough?" -8. Chapter 2370. "Oh, that's right." Qian Diheng slapped his forehead and exclaimed, "I was wondering why I felt that something was wrong. So it's here. Why didn't I think of going to the Jade Archive Hall?" After saying that, he didn't stay any longer. Without saying another word, he turned around and flew out of the cave. Xiangyang followed Qian Diheng to have a look. Helplessness came to his senses and hurriedly shouted, "Yes, I'll go now." Xiangyang's face was equally excited. He quickly caught up and flew into the sky. "Martial Uncle Zhua." Shui glanced at Sun Shu. Both of them walked over and chatted with Zhuo Minghui. Although they didn't talk much, Zhuo Minghui's shyness was soon gone. She even whispered to them. In just a few hours, Xiangyang and Qian Diheng had returned. "Damn it, I really shed a few tears for that guy." Qian Diheng cursed. "I knew it. That guy has a long life. He won't die just like that." "What?" Helplessness hurriedly got up and asked, "Where's Hongshan?" "His natal spiritual tablet." "Haha, good, I know." Seeing the anxious look in the cave residence, Xiangyang smiled and said, "I followed junior brother Qian to the Zhenlei Palace and didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall." Humph. The Jade Archive Hall of the Zhenlei Palace was closed at the beginning of the Sword Principal battle. Without the sect leader's personal order, no one can enter. Qian Diheng was a little resentful. "Even I couldn't enter the Jade Archive Hall." Helplessness listened and his face darkened. He glared at Xiangyang and scolded, "Since you didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall, why are you so happy?" "Master." Xiangyang smiled apologetically. "I didn't enter the Jade Archive Hall, but I saw Jin Liang who was on duty." "What did he say? Did he know that Hongshan's natal spiritual tablet was not damaged?" Helplessly, Xiangyang smiled bitterly and explained. The sect leader also ordered that the disciples on duty in the Jade Archive Hall must report the situation of the natal spiritual tablet to the deacon at any time. He wanted to scold Xiangyang, but he was too lazy to do so. After talking for so long, he still didn't know about Cui Hongshan and Xiaohua's life spirit tablets. "Xiangyang, how do you know that Xiaohua and Cui Hongshan are fine?" Zhuo Minghui said with a smile. She knew that Xiangyang was a steady person. If he wasn't certain, he wouldn't be so happy. "All right, teacher. Mother understands," Xiangyang said. When Jinliang saw that it was me and junior brother Qian, other than explaining to junior brother Qian who wanted to barge into the Jade Archive Hall, he also smiled and told me something. "Oh?" Zhuo Minghui asked curiously. "What did Jinliang say?" Jinliang said that as early as a few days ago, the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace had already come to the Jade Archive Hall and specifically looked at the life spirit tablets of the Heavenly Thunder Palace's disciples. Moreover, they came again yesterday with the sect master's handwritten order in their hands. They had placed special restrictions on the life spirit tablets of some of the Heavenly Thunder Palace's disciples. Other than the sect master, no one else was allowed to look at them. Xiangyang emphasized the words, "some of the Heavenly Thunder Palace's disciples," as if Jinliang was explaining, "Humph, that dog." Qian Diheng curled his lips and sneered. He didn't let me in and even hinted at me from the side. If he didn't say that it was related to my brother, I wouldn't have let him off so easily. Helplessly ignoring Qian Diheng, he pondered for a moment and said cautiously, Xiangyang, are you sure that what Jin Liang said was related to Cui Hongshan and Xiaohua? Yes, I'm sure. Then, Xiangyang told him about Jinqing and Xiaohua. He explained with a smile. Junior brother Xiao and Jinqing got to know each other after a fight. If he saw that junior brother Zhao's natal spiritual tablet was damaged, he would definitely tell me secretly. What he said didn't violate the rules of the Jade Archive Hall, and also told me about the two junior brothers. Yes, I understand. Helplessly sighed in relief. Zhuo Minghui and the others also looked better. However, the sect leader knew that junior brother Xiao and junior brother Cui didn't die. So why did he still give out the reward? Xiang Yang asked with a frown. Senior brother Xiang, this is the sect leader's business. Don't make wild guesses if there's nothing important. Qian Diheng said bluntly. Then, he bowed to helplessly and said, Martial uncle helplessly, since Xiao Hua didn't die, what I said just now is nonsense. I still have something to do. Goodbye. Good. Xiangyang nodded and said to Xiangyang, help me see the guests out. No need. I'll take my leave now. Qian Diheng nodded to the crowd again, turned around, and left as nimbly as when he came. This guy, Sun Shu glanced at Qian Diheng's back and said in a low voice, unless Xiao Hua is here, he looks down on everyone. He won't say a word to anyone. Beside him, Xiangyang smiled bitterly and said secretly, what's the meaning of this? You haven't seen how that guy messed around in the Jade Archive Hall. If it weren't for the sect leader's order, he would have really rushed into the Jade Archive Hall. Martial uncle helplessly, are you going to go into seclusion soon? Shui chatted with Zhuo Minghui for a while, then raised her head and asked, yes, this old man is planning to do so. Helplessly nodded. However, this old man feels a little rushed. There are some things that I haven't prepared yet. By the way, I wonder if Martial Uncle Sunming is free? This old man wants to go over and have a chat with her. This is difficult. Shui covered her mouth and smiled. She looked at Sun Shu and said, Master is also in seclusion. She seems to be breaking through the bottleneck of the middle gold core stage. I'm afraid she can't see Martial Uncle. So it's like this. Helplessly said. Martial Uncle, don't worry. Shui said with assurance, Martial Uncle will definitely be able to condense the core this time. This junior has a premonition. Oh? Helplessly raised his eyebrows and said with some joy, really? Of course. Shui nodded and said firmly, this junior has some insignificant premonition, similar to Xiao Hua's matter. Good. Helplessly's heart suddenly felt at ease. He understood in his heart that there were countless strange people in the cultivation world. There were countless cultivators like Shui who had the bloodline of the true spirit and had strange magical abilities. Since she could judge that Xiao Hua was fine one after another, then her premonition towards him shouldn't be a problem. This old woman also wants to go into seclusion in a few months. Zhuo Minghui said with a smile, Shui, do you think this old woman can condense the core? Shui was stunned, and then said with a smile, Martial Uncle Zhuo, it's still early for you. No matter what, you should wait until the child is a little older. AI, this old woman has been tied up in the late stage of foundation establishment for many years. If I don't think about condensing the core now, I'm afraid I won't have another chance. Shui glanced at Zhuo Minghui's abdomen and lightly bit her lips. She already faintly understood why Zhuo Minghui was pregnant. She thought for a moment and said with a smile, Martial Uncle Minghui, you worry too much. This junior thinks that Martial Uncle will definitely be able to condense the core in a few years. Really? When Zhuo Minghui heard this, her face was filled with joy like a blooming flower. Shui's face also showed a trace of a smile. The north of Ming country was not yet connected to Huan country. Although it was a little cold, the wind was bleak and the rain was hitting the banana leaves. It was completely different from the cold of Huan country's world of ice and snow. In a gorgeous room, there was a vermilion candlestick. On the candlestick, there was a half-lit red candle. At this time, the red candle still had a flame the size of a thumb. The dripping candle tears accumulated from the top of the red candle all the way to the candlestick. The flame of the candle fluttered and swayed slightly. The entire room, bright and dark, swayed. The bright and dark light shone on the vermilion bed next to it. Through the red embroidered canopy, it fell on a person. Pa! There was a soft sound, as if the candle flame had exploded. At this time, the person on the bed moved slightly. However, it was not this person who took the initiative. It was the person lying next to her who moved. This was a man. This was a man with strong muscles. This man was not an outsider, but Zhang Qingxiao. Zhang Qingxiao gently got up and turned to look at the woman lying next to him. He leaned over and gently kissed the woman's cheek before standing up. Wasn't the person lying on the bed Zhang Yutong? At this time, Zhang Yutong frowned slightly and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Qingxiao, how long are you going to hide this from me? Like sleep talk, like a whisper, and like a complaint. A faintly discernible voice came out from the corner of Zhang Yutong's mouth. What? In the Battle of Jinshan, 7 people from the Imperial Thunder sect died? Among them were Xiaohua and He Chui Hongshan. In a quiet room not far from this room, Zhang Qingxiao's face showed a ferocious expression. He held a jade slip in his hand and was roaring at an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. -8. Chapter 2371. That cultivator was very surprised, but seeing Zhang Qingxiao angry, he was extremely afraid. He bowed and said, Yes, Lord Sect Master, when I received the news, I didn't care, but when I saw the 2 people that Sect Master specially mentioned, I personally sent them over. In just a moment, Zhang Qingxiao had already regained her calm. She nodded and patted that cultivator's shoulder. She smiled and said, Not bad, you did well. Thank you for your praise, Sect Master. That cultivator was flattered. He patted his hand again and took out another jade slip. He handed it to Zhang Qingxiao and said, This disciple was afraid that Lord Sect Master had other matters, so I recorded the situation of Jinshan Quan and the map. Zhang Qingxiao was overjoyed. She took the jade slip and patted it again. She took out a token and smiled. Good job. This is a reward from this Sect Master. Take it and receive your reward. In the future, you must do such things more often. That cultivator's eyes lit up. He took the token and bowed. Thank you, Sect Master, for your generous gift. This disciple will take his leave. After the disciple left, Zhang Qingxiao impatiently immersed his divine sense into the jade slip. After he read it carefully, a trace of doubt appeared on his face. Stroking his chin with his hand, he whispered to himself, Tens of thousands of swordsmen? At most, it would be Liangjian's cultivation level. Xiaohua wouldn't be in any danger. However, if there were really 30 illusory swordsmen besieging him, damn, this guy. I'm afraid he won't be able to defeat them. But the problem is, how could there be 30 illusory swordsmen besieging this guy? Even I can't see through this guy's background. How could others notice him? But on the other hand, this Tu Hong, how could he be so vicious and merciless? He actually killed 70,000 people in a big battle. Under such a big scale, Xiaohua might really be implicated. Damn it! This guy must be meddling in other people's business and being indecisive. Instead of escaping himself, he wants to save others. No, I have to take a look. Zhang Qingxiao thought for a moment and finally patted her hand to keep the jade slip. She looked at the map of Jinshan Quan again and made a decision. However, just as he was about to put the jade slip away, he smirked. Yutong, why don't you sleep a little longer? You must be tired last night. You don't have to wake up so early, do you? However, even after Zhang Qingxiao said those words, there was still no response. Oh, Yutong, what happened to you? Zhang Qingxiao turned to look at Zhang Yutong. At this moment, Zhang Yutong was not wearing her sword attire. She was only wearing a silk cloth covering her body, revealing the other side of her beauty. What's the matter now? Zhang Yutong stared straight at Zhang Qingxiao and asked softly. Yes, that's right. The sect master sent an order for me to go to Hung Country to investigate a matter. Zhang Qingxiao said without hesitation. Oh, you want to go to Sword Domain? Zhang Yutong's face revealed a burst of joy. Can you take me with you? Zhang Yutong asked timidly. Zhang Qingxiao also shook her head without hesitation. How can that be? If the sect master finds out, I won't be able to keep my life. Is that so? Zhang Yutong's face revealed disappointment. However, she still said softly, Then I understand. Go and do your work. Yutong, Zhang Qingxiao could not bear it and comforted her. Wait a little longer. When the sect master has forgotten about you, I will plead with the sect master. Is the sect master of Heavenly Demon Sect so easily moved? Zhang Yutong said coldly. Even if he has forgotten about me, as long as you mention it, won't he know? You have done so many things that he cannot tolerate. Aren't you afraid that he will take your life? I'm not afraid. Zhang Qingxiao flew over and pulled Zhang Yutong into her arms. She said decisively, For you, I am willing to give up my life. Really? Zhang Yutong's voice was a little misty. Her gaze fell on the roof again. Really? Zhang Qingxiao kissed Zhang Yutong's lips and did not forget to answer. That's good. Zhang Yutong's eyes were a little dazed. She murmured, As long as you are sincere to me, anything doesn't matter. Zhang Yutong's delicate body gradually heated up. Zhang Qingxiao did not understand the other meaning in Zhang Yutong's fairy tale. Dozens of days later, in the sky above Golden Spring Mountain, a pitch-black light flashed. Zhang Qingxiao's figure flashed out from the middle. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and sniffed. He sneered. As expected, the smell of blood is very strong. The Tao sect prides itself on being righteous and looks down on other cultivators. But when they kill people, they are crazier than others. These 70,000 lives, even I, will hesitate for half a day. Yes, it's here. Zhang Qingxiao looked at it for a moment, and then her figure flew down from the sky and fell into the black hole that was 1,000 feet wide. However, in less than an hour, Zhang Qingxiao flew out again with a puzzled look on her face. Damn it, there is so much spiritual energy of heaven and earth in this array. What's shocking is that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is constantly flowing. The spiritual energy is violent and chaotic. Even my demonic sense and divine sense cannot penetrate it. Junior brother Xiao, if you really fell into it, you would have died long ago. Sai, if you die, my Qiuyin will also have no chance. My life will belong to someone else sooner or later. How can you die? Then, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in Zhang Qingxiao's eyes. His hands moved, but he hesitated and did not hit the ground. Junior brother Xiao, it's not that I don't want to save you. I will risk my life and destroy this array now. But do you still have a life now? If you had died, I'm afraid you would have turned into white bones and a vengeful spirit. If you hadn't died, Zhang Qingxiao thought of this, and her eyes lit up again. She smiled and said, Damn it, I'm so used to being a cultivator that I've forgotten the gatekeeping method of the Heavenly Demon Sect. As he said, Zhang Qingxiao scanned with his divine sense. He did not see any trace of cultivators. His figure flashed and fell into the black hole again. He patted his hand and took out a palm-sized blood-red banner from his storage bag. Zhang Qingxiao chanted a mantra, and a dark green flame gradually appeared in his right hand. When he slapped the banner with his hand, a thick black smoke rose from the banner. Go! Zhang Qingxiao waved the banner in his hand. The black smoke turned into a wisp and drilled into the array underground. However, when the black smoke came into contact with the array, it immediately boiled and bubbled like boiling water. It could not penetrate the array at all. Zhang Qingxiao's face was a little ugly. Damn it, what kind of array did Tu Hong set up? Even my Heavenly Demon Sect's technique can't penetrate it. I can clearly feel that there are countless resentful spirits in the array. They are all sword cultivators and cultivators with resentment who were killed by Tu Hong, but I can't find out anything. -8. Chapter 2372. Someone's coming. Zhang Qingxiao raised her eyebrows and kept the long banner. With a flash of her body, as though she was tearing the void apart, she disappeared into the black hole. Not long after, she saw a few Foundation establishment late-stage cultivators sneakily flying over. Similarly, they landed in the black hole and used all sorts of secret techniques in an attempt to break the array. If you guys can break it, even I would be laughing. Zhang Qingxiao popped out half of her head to take a look and sneered. It's your fortune if you guys can't break it. If you do, the first ones to lose your lives will be you guys. Following which, the corner of Zhang Qingxiao's mouth twitched again. She stretched out her hand and took out dozens of fireball talismans and threw them into the air. Rumble. A loud sound was heard and Zhang Qingxiao's voice screamed again. Someone is stealing Spring Jinshan's spirit stones. Someone is stealing Spring Jinshan's spirit stones. Quick, let's go take a look from afar. A group of 6th-grade swordsmen were patrolling. Hearing the commotion at Spring Jinshan, they immediately flew over on their swords. As for the few Foundation establishment late-stage cultivators in the black hole, they all rushed out from the hole with a black face. Using their spiritual senses, they saw many swordsmen flying over and were all shocked. Without saying anything, they scattered and fled in all directions like stray dogs. Ha ha ha, Zhang Qingxiao had already flown far away. Seeing the group of Foundation establishment late-stage cultivators being chased, she laughed so hard that she clutched her stomach and fell into the air. She laughed so hard that tears were about to fall. Time passed very quickly, day after day, month after month. Closing one's eyes and opening one's eyes would be a night. Opening one's eyes and closing one's eyes would be a day. Sometimes, after closing one's eyes, one would not be able to open them again. Sometimes, even if one opened one's eyes, one would not be able to see the next day's sun. 5 years passed in a blink of an eye. The war between the Dao sect and the sword cultivators continued to expand. The flames of war burned the borders of Huan country, Shi country, and Ming country. Sometimes, it would penetrate deep into Huan country. Sometimes it would penetrate deep into Shi country and Ming country. Furthermore, just like in the previous battles, the Dao sect was overwhelmed at the start and was not prepared enough. Under the deliberate planning of the sword cultivators, they were always at a disadvantage. However, as the cultivators gradually gained a foothold and adapted to the attacks of the sword cultivators, especially when they were even more shameless than the sword cultivators, this disadvantage was reversed. Both sides were once again in a stalemate. This stalemate was very similar to the glue between lovers. Wherever there were cultivators, there would definitely be swordsmen. And wherever there were swordsmen, there would definitely be cultivators. During this period, there were several famous battles, and both sides had their victories and defeats. However, these big battles were not as loud as the battle at Golden Spring Mountain, nor were the casualties as heavy as the battle at Golden Spring Mountain. The Golden Core cultivators in the meeting hall, in terms of cultivation, were all outstanding. But in terms of military strategy, how could they be Tu Hong's opponent? Even if they were to stack up, they would not be able to match up to Tu Hong. In these few battles, the victories were all due to Tu Hong's planning. The losses were all due to Tu Hong's compromises. Tu Hong's position in the meeting hall was getting more and more important. The so-called daily duty was just a figurehead. Almost all the key military affairs, the Golden Core cultivators on duty would seek Tu Hong's opinion. Without his opinion, the hearts of the Golden Core cultivators would be empty. Although these Golden Core cultivators were filled with jealousy, but they had no choice. Seeing the rise of Tu Hong, Imperial Thunder Sect's Qianemo was happy, because Tu Hong's attitude towards him was obviously different from the other cultivators. Tu Hong was cautious and respectful, subtly raising Qianemo by half a head. Qianemo naturally knew what Tu Hong was thinking. Moreover, the 5-year agreement between Imperial Thunder Sect and Sky Patrol City was coming to an end. Tu Hong and Dui Qiming's dual cultivation ceremony was already on the agenda. In these 5 years, Dui Qiming did not participate in any battles. She had always been meditating in the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. The place where she, Ming Mao, and Dui Ling lived was still the same as before. As time passed, Ming Mao and Dui Ling returned to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Only Dui Qiming lived alone in the secluded place. Tu Hong often came to visit and informed her of the battles in Sky Patrol City. Dui Qiming was still reserved at first, but gradually, she accepted it. Now that the dual cultivation ceremony was about to be held, Dui Qiming was considering whether to move to Tu Hong's residence. According to Qian Mo's observation, at the very beginning, Dui Qiming was still a little gloomy. She would always secretly cry, but as time passed, her tears turned into lamentation, and lamentation turned into hidden bitterness. In the end, the bitterness disappeared, leaving behind only a faint contemplation on her brows. This faint contemplation showed Dui Qiming's temperament, making it easier for people to feel tender affection for her. Hee time? It's the world's best healing spirit pill. No matter if it's the physical body or the heart, it's always effective. Qian couldn't help but praise Tu Hong's brilliance in his heart. Everything in Sky Patrol City and Sword Domain could not change the grand array of Golden Spring Mountain. As the battle spread, the cultivators and swordsmen seemed to have forgotten about Golden Spring Mountain. They also seemed to have forgotten about the flying swords and treasures of the tens of thousands of swordsmen and cultivators within the grand array. The grand array of Golden Spring Mountain seemed to have become a huge mystery buried deep under Golden Spring Mountain. It would only be revealed 10 years later when the nascent soul cultivators entered the battle. However, what everyone didn't expect was that within this unsolvable mystery, there was a fierce Xiaohua. In these 5 years, he cultivated with all his might, refining the almost endless heaven and earth spiritual qi, constantly avoiding the fate of being destroyed by the heaven and earth spiritual qi at any time. As Xiaohua cultivated bitterly, as Xiaohua was struck by the spirit qi again and again, his cultivation also advanced by leaps and bounds. At this time, he was already close to the peak of Foundation Establishment late stage. Although Ling Yunwu and the other 12 swordsmen transformed into 12 flying swords, the 7 stars grand array that imprisoned Xiaohua still existed. And because Ling Yunwu and the other swordsmen transformed into flying swords, the power of imprisonment was even stronger and tighter. Of course, with the passage of time, although the power of imprisonment did not weaken under Xiaohua's cultivation of Foundation Establishment late stage, it had already loosened. In the end, when Xiaohua was already able to resist the attacks of the spirit qi, he even tried to break the 7 stars grand array. However, Xiaohua only dabbled in it and did not really use his full strength. After all, to be so quiet, or to be forced to cultivate by the spirit qi, to Xiaohua, was something that could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. He almost wanted to condense his core or absorb all the spirit qi in the grand array before coming out of seclusion. After all, Xiaohua was clear in his heart that the amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi he needed for cultivation was far beyond that of ordinary cultivators. The green spirit pill he used to advance from Foundation Establishment late stage to Foundation Establishment late stage was probably enough for a nascent soul cultivator to advance from initial stage to intermediate stage. It would be a waste if he did not take advantage of such a great opportunity. However, since entering the peak of Foundation Establishment late stage, Xiaohua could no longer cultivate in peace. It was like a small thorn in his heart. It was not big, but it made him uncomfortable. If he paid attention to it, he could not find any trace of it at all. Is it possible that there is another cause and effect? Or is it because I can't condense my core without Lingli pill? Xiaohua was not very surprised. Although this feeling was not as strong as when he was looking for Dyer in Sentry City, it was obvious that there was another cause and effect waiting for Xiaohua to resolve. He could no longer stay here to cultivate. Forget it. Xiaohua opened his eyes, turned his neck, and secretly said, "My seclusion? Well, it's a real seclusion of death. I'm afraid that the masters of Thunder Controlling Sect will think that I and others have died. Oh, it's bad, isn't it?" Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly realized that it was not a big deal for him to cultivate in seclusion, but wouldn't the Thunder Controlling Sect and the myriad Thunder Valley be turned upside down? Wouldn't Xue be sad? Even if Hongxia Fairy heard it, she would also be sad. Well, it's this kind of cause and effect. Xiaohua nodded, and his divine thoughts swept through the phoenix celestial body that wrapped his whole body. At this time, the celestial body was more than 100 feet larger, reaching more than 400 feet. Inside the celestial body, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth had condensed into a needle-like crystal pillar. It was surrounded by the netherworld wind, and there was a layer of ink sand on it. These crystal thorns were extremely small, and they rotated at a high speed. Hundreds of thousands of crystal thorns clustered together, forming a funnel-shaped vortex. These vortexes were densely packed, and there were countless of them, covering the phoenix celestial body. However, if one took a closer look, there were still some patterns. There were 132 million small areas, and each area revolved around an imaginary point. These 132 million small crystal spikes revolved in the same pattern, and the pace of their rotation was also the same. However, under the impact of the spirit howl, these 132 million crystal thorns slowly rotated within the phoenix celestial body. Xiao Hua used his primordial spirit to sense the changes in the celestial body, and he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He thought to himself, where did this incomplete jade slip come from to the Dawn Rain continent? This is obviously not the path of cultivation of the Tao sect. If one looks at the rotation of these 132 million crystal thorns, it is actually somewhat similar to the star Tao of the Xian Kong Pavilion. It's a pity that this cultivation technique is incomplete, and the space for improvement is limited. As for how far this celestial body can cultivate in the future, it will depend on this young master's luck. What does this young master lack? Maybe spirit stones, maybe pills, maybe cultivation techniques, but what about luck? This young master has never lacked anything. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of the auspicious jade talisman that he kept close to his body. However, since this cultivation technique needs to be cleansed with spiritual energy at the beginning, the threshold is really too high. If I want to cultivate in the future, I'm afraid that the conditions will be even more terrible, right? This kind of thing that scares this young master to death, it's better not to come to it. -8. Chapter 2373. How are Cui Hongshan and these 6 dumb birds? Xiao Hua thought as his mind entered the space again. Cui Hongshan and the other 5 were still lying casually on the ground and hadn't woken up. They were exactly the same as when they had been sent in 5 years ago. The only difference was that Little Silver, who had been berated by Little Yellow to watch over the 6 people, was now jumping from one person to another, and then from another to another. The hair on their heads had been messed up by Little Silver, and there were even some bald spots. Damn it, how am I supposed to explain this to these people? Xiao Hua was both angry and amused. Little Silver was jumping happily on the 6 people. Sensing Xiao Hua's mind, he immediately stopped and stood on the tip of Cui Hongshan's nose. He raised his little head and looked up at the sky with his mouse eyes. His 2 pink little paws were clasped in front of his chest, and his little tail swayed casually in front of Cui Hongshan's eyes. Little Yellow, let Little Silver go back. Xiao Hua said to Little Yellow, who was already a little clear-headed. Got it, Mother. Little Yellow's voice was still a little lazy. Little Silver then ran around the 6 people like a puff of smoke and plucked a few more strands of their hair from his little paws. He then quickly ran across the ground and rushed into his own spirit field. What's so fun about this hair? Xiao Hua was speechless. Mother, is this that little girl? Little Yellow suddenly asked. Xiao Hua naturally knew that Little Yellow was talking about that big injured duck. It should be. Mother can't be sure. Boy knows, her aura is that little girl's. Little Yellow yawned and said in his heart, but she's seriously injured. And her life force is still a little weak. Life force? You know about life force? Xiao Hua was a little astonished. In his heart, Little Yellow was just a little thing that didn't know anything. Boy can think of something as he sleeps, as if it's already in the boy's mind. This way, your child will slowly understand. Goldie himself was also puzzled. My goodness, what kind of spirit beast is this? Xiao Hua was secretly surprised. However, he exhorted, this has done us a great favor. You watch her carefully. If there's any abnormality, quickly call Mother. I know, Mother, Goldie said disapprovingly. That situation, was no different from a rebellious child. Have you grown up? Xiaohua also felt helpless when he heard the same helpless tone as himself. Xiaohua's mind left the space. He shrugged his shoulders slightly and took the Phoenix Dharma body back into his body. Immediately, another wave of spiritual pressure came crashing over. Xiaohua felt his body tighten. His meridians and corporeal body were filled with an extremely large amount of heaven and earth spirit qi. He had no choice but to mobilize a few more primordial spirits to refine the heaven and earth spirit qi. Thanks to the Phoenix Dharma body, as Xiaohua refined the spiritual energy, he sighed. Otherwise, this young master would have already turned into a vengeful spirit 5 years ago. Thinking of the vengeful spirits, Xiaohua's ears once again produced a mournful sound. Although this sound was covered by the tide of spiritual pressure, a strange kind of fear naturally arose from Xiaohua's heart. Needless to say, Xiaohua understood in his heart, this is the unyielding spirit of those cultivators and swordsmen that Tu Hong killed. Forget it, this is also one of this young master's merits. I just don't know if the Buddha's relic can be affected by the spiritual pressure. Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then carefully released the Buddha's relic. Within the spiritual pressure of the Buddha's relic, that golden light flourished, illuminating the surroundings. The vengeful spirits that had faded into the smoke seemed to have seen the beauty of heaven and earth and swarmed forward like a swarm of bees. And, seeing that the Buddha's relic was not affected by the spiritual pressure, Xiaohua inwardly nodded, then secretly laughed. Of course, the vengeful spirits are not afraid of the spiritual pressure, so the Buddha's relic is even less afraid. Immediately after, Xiaohua did not hesitate. The Buddha's relic chanted the 9 syllables of truth, and the brilliant golden descend characters flew out from the Buddha's mouth one by one, landing on each of the vengeful spirits. Those vengeful spirits were originally the vengeful spirits of cultivators and swordsmen, and were filled with unyielding and injustice. When the army character landed on them, a wisp of green smoke immediately flew out from their bodies, and their entire souls became clear. Those souls once again transformed into human form, bowed towards the Buddha's relic and said, "Many thanks to the Venerable One," then immediately disappeared. And that wisp of green smoke also floated within the spiritual pressure, disappearing without a trace. However, at the same time that it disappeared, an even smaller blood-like thing that even Buddha's sense could not detect fell into Xiaohua's Buddha's heart. It turned into the Buddha's fire, and on top of the Buddha's fire, there was a small red that rushed into the tempering of the execution dream. Xiaohua originally wanted to do merits, but he did not expect that once he did it, he would not be able to stop, and it was delayed for dozens of days. Damn it! This Tu Hong has really committed a great sin. I'm afraid there are close to 100,000 vengeful spirits. In the end, Xiaohua himself was somewhat angry. He originally thought that it would be good if there were a few thousand, but who would have thought that it would actually increase by 10 times? Moreover, these vengeful spirits actually did not leave, and all of them stayed here, clearly harboring resentment towards Tu Hong. If I think about it again, swordsmen are vicious. If this guy did not hold back, if he did not act so ruthlessly, the cultivators would also suffer heavy casualties. Xiaohua was the most sympathetic towards the suffering of others, and he only needed to put himself in their shoes to immediately understand the difficulties within. In the end, this is a great sword battle. Although these vengeful spirits are pitiful, there is nothing that can be done about it. Who told the sword cultivators to start this great battle? Naturally, this young master can ignore this kind of haggling. However, Tu Hong directly placed my thunder-controlling sect's first small team inside the Great Formation, making it clear that he wants the lives of the 7 of us. No matter what the other cultivators do, we will definitely lose our lives. This karma, this young master will not let it go. A trace of ruthlessness flashed through Xiaohua's eyes. But why did he do this? Could it be that he received instructions from someone else? It's possible. Maybe Tu Hong and that old ghost Jingru have some kind of friendship. In that case, this young master has implicated Cui Hongshan and the others. Xiaohua sighed. In these 5 years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, while Cui Hongshan and the other 4 had been unconscious for an entire 5 years. Xiaohua still felt a bit guilty in his heart. Let's talk about it when there's a chance in the future, Xiaohua thought to himself. Even if there's no benefit, at least we still manage to hold on to our lives, right? You can't resent this young master. Xiaohua was finding excuses for himself again. After waiting for the last vengeful spirit to finish transcending, Xiaohua was a bit bewildered. That's not right. That female swordsman's soul is still here. But the other 12, no, the other 20 swordsman souls are not here? Could it be that their souls have already dissipated? Or are they inside the flying sword? -8. Chapter 2374. Xiaohua didn't have any feelings for Ling Yunwu and the others. If it weren't for them, he was afraid that he wouldn't have such an opportunity. Since he didn't see the souls of these swordsmen, he was naturally puzzled. Well, even if they are in the flying swords, they have already turned into sword spirits. How can I be afraid of them? Thinking about it, Xiaohua put away the Buddha's saraira and waved his hand, holding the wishful steel staff in his hand. Xiaohua tried his best to hit the staff in midair. With a loud bang, the power of the 7 stars array was loosened by the wishful steel staff. Not in the 5 elements, Xiaohua snorted coldly. This wishful steel staff is really powerful. It directly attacks the power of imprisonment. It's really something that other magic weapons can't do. Now that he had a treasure like the wishful steel staff, Xiaohua's strength had a place to be used. He raised the wishful steel staff with both hands and struck the power of the 7 stars great array, breaking it little by little. Since the 7 stars array was the secret technique of the Lingfeng sword sect, it must be incomparably powerful. If there was a swordsman presiding over it, it might not be so easy for Xiaohua to break it. Unfortunately, there were only 12 flying swords. They were dead objects. Even if there were sword spirits in the flying swords, how could they control the array? In less than half an hour, the 7 stars array was broken by the incomparably brave Xiaohua with the wishful steel staff. As the array was broken, the 12 flying swords wailed at the same time and were about to leave the air. You still want to leave at this time? What wishful thinking! Xiaohua sneered and waved his big sleeve. The 12 flying swords were imprisoned by him. They obediently stopped in midair. Collect! Xiaohua waved his sleeve, and the 12 flying swords fell into the space. Then, Xiaohua took out the sword from the sword pouch and let his primordial spirit comprehend it. His figure swayed slightly and was about to fly to the ground. However, just as he moved, the spiritual energy swarmed into his body, scaring him. Oh, so that's how it is. This spiritual energy is so powerful. The more you want to escape, the more it will enter. I'm afraid that the vast majority of cultivators and swordsmen will explode like this. Thus, Xiaohua hurriedly stopped and released the Phoenix Dharma body to block the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He tried his best to refine the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that entered his body. Forget it. Let's just slowly move. After Xiaohua finished refining his spiritual energy, he didn't dare to be rash and slowly moved towards the edge of the underground Great Formation. Oh, what's this? Xiaohua had just flown for a moment when he discovered a sawtooth, flying sword in front of him. "Ayo, motherfucker. I've been running for my life for so long that I've turned stupid." Xiaohua immediately realized, if those 12 sword cultivators can transform into flying swords, then the other swordsmen can naturally do the same. The flying swords transformed by the illusory swordsmen are extremely precious. Needless to say, the greedy Xiaohua began to search again. However, there were more surprises to come. Gradually, Xiaohua realized that not only were there sword cultivators flying swords, there were also many Dharma treasures of Dao sect cultivators that were left unscathed in the soil. Xiaohua, who was wild with joy, was so happy that he scratched his ears and cheeks. It was as if he was picking up treasures. He kept them all in his space. However, when he calmed down a little, Xiaohua remembered, I can't take them all. I still have to go out from here in a while. and return to Sky Patrol City. If I loot everything here, how can I explain it? After thinking for a while, Xiaohua found the main point of his search. He didn't want ordinary Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures, and he didn't care about ordinary flying swords either. However, after another hour, Xiaohua was in trouble. Which Dharma treasure or Dharma artifact that could avoid the attack of the spirit howl was easy to obtain? Xiaohua picked up this one and threw that one away. Every one of them made his heart bleed. Who cares? I took it. So what? Who can make me spit it out? Xiaohua was ruthless. Even if that old ghost Jingru comes now, I can easily escape, right? Thinking of this, the two Dharma treasures in his hands disappeared and were sent into his space. Who cares about them? In fact, it was ridiculous to say that these Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures, Xiaohua couldn't use most of them. However, Xiaohua liked them and just wanted to keep them for himself. There was no other reason. It was his nature. Thinking about it, it took Xiaohua a few days to pick up the items of 100,000 cultivators and swordsmen. Among them, he only picked up the ones that were in good condition and threw away the ones that he didn't care about. When Xiaohua wobbled from the bottom of the great array to the top and from the left to the right, there were so many things in this space. Xiaohua wobbled and laughed foolishly. It was really a blessing for fools. Not only Dharma treasures and flying swords, Xiaohua also picked up a lot of sword slips. Even like Ling Yunwu, Xiaohua picked up 6 of the illusory swordsman's transformed flying swords, making a total of 18 swords. What made Xiaohua the happiest was that he didn't know which sword cultivator's storage bag it came from, but there was actually a white bone palm that matched the huge skeleton in his space. Speaking of which, it took Xiaohua more than 10 days to walk through the entire great array and collect all the essences. Then, he slowly and leisurely headed towards the ground. When he arrived at the edge of the great array, he used his divine sense to carefully examine it, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously revealed a smile. This edge was different from before. It wasn't that kind of tyrannical and unstable restriction. Instead, it was a kind of sturdy restriction. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and used his transcendence vision to look, and found the weak point of the restriction. Without hesitation, he took out the rabbit talisman and imbued it with his transcendence energy. When several rabbit talismans were embedded into the spirit array, the edges of the spirit array began to change. The previously stable restriction began to show signs of loosening. Once these signs of loosening appeared, it immediately became like a whirlwind that swept away the clouds. It could no longer be contained. This is bad. When Xiaohua saw this, he immediately understood. Although the edge of the array was stable, and the place he had touched was only a small corner, it had already caused the entire array to lose its balance. The loss of balance at the edge of the array wasn't a big deal. The key was that the spiritual howl within the array was constantly washing over it. Although 5 years had already passed, the spiritual howl hadn't even subsided by 20%. Once the edge of the array lost its balance, the spiritual howl immediately increased and rushed towards Xiaohua's location like a swarm of bees. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent and hastily summoned his phoenix Dharma body, and with a wave of his hand, he collected several rabbit talismans. Wong! A thunderous howl resounded from within the array. The stirred-up spiritual howl came from behind Xiaohua, and from every possible direction, slapped towards the loosened edge of the array. Xiaohua could only summon his phoenix Dharma body, and at the same time the crystal thorns in his body rapidly revolved. He also activated his mental cultivation method and secret technique, and did his utmost to refine the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Woo, boom! With merely a huge impact, the edge of the array was broken, and with a sound like a chain, the entire array completely collapsed. In an instant, an incomparably powerful force was born from within the spirit stone mine of MT Springgold. With a thunderous momentum, it slapped towards the surroundings, rushed into the air, and rushed towards the ground. Boom! As if a dozen nascent soul cultivators had joined forces to attack. MT Springgold trembled, and countless mountain rocks and dust rushed into the sky, and countless dust fragments spread in all directions. The entire heaven and earth was completely covered by the dust. That incomparably pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth also instantly filled the area within a radius of several li. Furthermore, it spread towards the surroundings at an extremely fast speed. In merely an instant, a deep pit of several li in size formed within empty Springgold. Wu, following closely, countless hurricanes accompanied by the diffusion of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth formed in the surroundings of empty Springgold. All the trees, snow, mountain rocks, and other things within 100 li were swept up into the sky and were thrown far away. What's going on? Just as the array exploded, in the air several li away from empty Springgold, there were two groups of disciples patrolling. One group was made up of Dao sect disciples, and the other group was made up of sword cultivators. All of them were in the middle stage of foundation establishment. A Dao sect cultivator at the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment suddenly felt that something was amiss. Just as he had the time to shout out, the hurricane attacked him, and a powerful force swept through his body. It was extremely barbaric, and also extremely easy to tear him into pieces. There was simply no room for resistance. The other dozen cultivators were even more miserable. Before they could even think, they were swept up by the hurricane, and just as they were blown a few feet into the air, they were immediately torn apart. The group of sword cultivators were slightly stronger than the other cultivators. Their bodies were sturdy, and the flying swords under their feet were also fast. Unfortunately, they were only able to fly for several tens of li before they were pulled down from their flying swords by a powerful and chaotic force. They were forcefully thrown into the hurricane. The most pitiful one was a level 5 swordsman. Although he tried his best to control the flying sword to fly, there was still a broken flying sword in the hurricane. The huge force blew the flying sword upside down and directly penetrated the swordsman's chest with the sword hilt. It did not stop for a moment at all, and rushed into the air with a whistling sound. It flew straight into the mountain rock 1,000 feet away, and only stopped after it was inserted for hundreds of feet. With such a powerful force, it was no wonder that Tu Hong was so calm. He was absolutely not afraid that someone would break the array. Even a nascent soul cultivator would find it difficult to protect himself from such a huge explosion of spiritual qi, right? Unfortunately, no matter how much he calculated, he still missed out on one. That was Xiaohua, who was breaking the array within the array. The inside of the array was completely different from the outside. Although it was only the boundary of the array, the difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. When the array collapsed, Xiaohua tried his best to escape into the array, using the Phoenix Dharma body to protect his body. When he could no longer resist the force of the explosion of spiritual qi, he stopped resisting and rushed out of the array along with the hurricane produced by the spiritual qi. Moreover, Xiaohua was breaking the array from the bottom. His figure followed the hurricane and rushed straight into the sky. Xiaohua's figure gradually accelerated. Those magic treasures and flying swords that were enough to kill golden core cultivators were the same speed as him, and some were even in front of him. They simply did not pose any threat to him. -8. Chapter 2375. These 7 people came from the direction of empty Chuanjin's array. Zhang Xian immediately understood and shouted, "They are the disciples of the patrol team in front of us. Quickly save them." Hearing this, everyone hurriedly took action. Using magic tools and other methods, they pulled Xiaohua and the others out from the foothills. "Damn it, can't you be a bit more gentle?" Xiaohua closed his eyes and cursed inwardly. "He directly pulled me out with a rope. If it weren't for my thick skin, wouldn't that pull have injured my tendons and bones? I don't even know how to save people." "Senior brother Zhang, these 7 people are on their last breaths." Seeing the state of the 7 people, a disciple hurriedly said, "We do have some pills in our storage pouches, but there aren't many." "That's not right, Senior brother Zhang. This is the Imperial Thunder Sect's robe. These 7 people are Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples." Another clever disciple discovered, "The patrolling disciples in front of us are from Cool Breeze Valley." Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples? 7 people? Zhang Xian's eyes lit up and hurriedly looked over. When he saw Xiaohua's face, He couldn't help but be overjoyed. That's right. It's the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. This guy is Xiaohua. I recognize these 7 people. They are the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples who fell in the Battle of Mt. Quanjin. They actually didn't die. Quick, don't care about the pills. Quickly give them to them. We must preserve their lives. This is a greater contribution than magic treasures. Yes, this disciple understands. When the disciple who was stingy with the pills heard this, he didn't dare to say anything else. He immediately took out healing pills from his storage pouch and put one into the mouths of Xiaohua and the others. After everyone had consumed the elixir, Zhang Xian's heart was slightly at ease. He looked around and pointed to the cave that Xiaohua had previously used. These 7 people are seriously injured and cannot be moved for the time being. We will first place the 7 people in the cave and leave 1 person to guard it. The others will follow this poor Taoist to search inside. Yes, this disciple understands. The group of disciples then hurriedly threw the 7 people into the cave. That crude force was only slightly inferior to when Xiaohua threw the 6 people into the stone wall. This is really karma. Xiaohua was speechless as he enjoyed the treatment of being thrown away. Fortunately, the disciples of the Utopia faction were well-mannered. They placed the 7 people in different places, lying on their backs instead of piling them together. After making arrangements for Xiaohua and the others, Zhang Xian once again left behind an early-stage Foundation establishment disciple, while the others once again headed towards the Golden Spring Mountain Range. After another 3 to 4 days, the spiritual energy explosion at Mount Quanjin finally attracted cultivators and swordsmen. Within a radius of 10 miles around Mount Quanjin, human figures began to appear. At this moment, Zhang Xian and the rest had already arrived near the Golden Spring Mountain Range. At the same time, they could also see the huge crater in the Golden Spring Mountain Range. Facing such a huge crater, Zhang Xian was even more speechless. He could easily imagine the scene when the array collapsed. That unstoppable ferocity. Naturally, he thought of Xiaohua, who was lucky enough to survive. Sigh, why is there such a big difference between people? This sentence flashed into his mind again. Zhang Xian and the other disciples of the Utopia faction searched the crater in Golden Spring Mountain for a day and found a lot of magic treasures and the remains of magic treasures. When a cultivator scanned the crater with his spiritual sense, Zhang Xian immediately left with his disciples. They had already gained enough. It was not worthwhile to have any more conflicts with others and even lose their lives. When Zhang Xian and the rest returned to the cave, the 2 people he sent to deliver the message had also returned from the teleportation device. Following closely were a few guards from the Sky Patrol City. They were also shocked that Xiaohua and the rest were still alive. An hour after Zhang Xian's return, Xiaohua, Cui Hongshan, and the rest also woke up one after another. When he saw Zhang Xian and the rest, Cui Hongshan was stunned and hurriedly said, Where is this? Is the Golden Spring Mountain spiritual stone mine still in the hands of the Taoist faction? Xiaohua was also stunned. Looking at the somewhat familiar face of Zhang Xian, he hesitated and said, Are you fellow cultivator Zhang from the Utopia faction? Hee, junior brother Xiao, of course it's me. Zhang Xian looked at Xiaohua's almost unchanged face and said with a smile, I am Zhang Xian, who participated in the Taiching sect's Feather Deity Conference. After not seeing each other for decades, I look old, but junior brother Xiao is still as youthful as ever. Sigh, it's nothing. Xiaohua waved his hand, looked at Cui Hongshan and asked again, Senior brother Zhang, where is this? Is this the Golden Spring Mountain spiritual stone mine? What happened to me and the rest? Hee, junior brother Xiao. Zhang Xian looked at Xiaohua, then looked at Cui Hongshan and the rest, who were confused and said with a smile, This must be Captain Cui Hongshan, right? Cui Hongshan nodded and said, That's me, senior brother Zhang from the Utopia faction. Nice to meet you. It's a long story about Golden Spring Mountain. I won't explain it in detail here. We'll return to the Sky Patrol City now. On the way, I'll explain it slowly. Zhang Xian thought for a while and said, Okay. Xiaohua nodded, but Cui Hongshan frowned and said, Senior brother Zhang, what happened to Golden Spring Mountain? Why are we here? And we just recovered from our injuries? Zhang Zhang Xian laughed softly. The Golden Spring Mountain spiritual stone mine no longer exists. As for how Brother Chui got injured, I don't know. However, when I saw all of you, your lives were hanging by a thread. Fortunately, although your injuries are serious, they're all on the skin and flesh. Your meridians and dantian are still intact. You'll naturally recover in these few days. Fellow Taoists, you are all lucky. Sigh, thinking about some of our friends. As he spoke, Zhang Xian's face paled. Oh? Xiaohua understood and said softly, Senior Brother Zhang, Senior Brother Yang Fangsheng. It seems like, Junior Brother Xiao has met Senior Brother Yang before, right? Yes, and Senior Brother He Fang Yuan from Tai Ching sect, and Senior Brother Ku Xingxi from Kunlun sect, they're all old friends of mine. Sigh. Only Senior Brother He Fang Yuan was lucky enough to escape from Golden Spring Mountain and has returned to Tai Ching sect now. Zhang Xian sighed. I only heard about him 5 years ago. I haven't heard about him for the past few years. 5 years ago? Senior Brother Zhang, what do you mean? Zhan Minghui was baffled and asked unconsciously. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xian stood up and said, Let's go. Now that Golden Spring Mountain's formation has unexpectedly exploded, it attracted many cultivators and swordsmen. We should hurry back to patrol Heaven City. Golden Spring Mountain's formation? What's going on? Cui Hongshan was puzzled, but immediately after, his face showed a trace of shock as he looked at Zhen Minghui and said, Senior Brother Minghui, the formation that Senior Brother Zhang mentioned, is it that layer of restriction? -8.